All your gadgets.
Okay, ready to go?
Yes.
Good morning, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to a regular meeting of the Madera County Board of Supervisors. Today is Tuesday, June 1st. Let's go ahead, and we don't have to do a roll call because there's nobody on the web. Everybody's here. So furthermore, are there any additions to the agenda?
There are no additions.
Thank you. Council.
Good
would
morning,
you-
Chairman, members of the board. There are two items for your closed session today. The first is under Government Code Section 54957.6. That's a conference with your labor negotiators. Your designated representatives are Director Alba Gomez and Mrs. Susan Carter, and the employee organization is all units. There's also two cases under Government Code Section 54956.9 where you have significant exposure to litigation and a conference with your legal counsel regarding that anticipated litigation under subdivision D, paragraphs 2 or 3. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any members of the public that have any questions regarding our closed session items? Seeing none, we will recess into closed session. See you all soon. Ready? Good morning, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to a regular meeting of the Madera County Board of Supervisors. Today is Tuesday, June 1st, 2021. Council, is there anything to report out of closed session?
Chairman, there are no reportable actions from your closed session this morning.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to opening and closing the meeting in memory of individuals. Is there anybody that anybody like to remember this morning? Supervisor Frazier.
Yes, I've got unfortunately a couple. First, David Rich passed away, dentist here in Madera. Just a wonderful person. My wife has to find a new dentist, but that's really enjoyed knowing him and his wife, and my prayers and condolences go out to Diane Rich. Also, my wife's granddad in Waynesville, North Carolina, Spencer Kent, passed away, and luckily my wife was able to get out to visit him a month ago when he could still enjoy her visit. So just wanted to open and close in their memory today.
Very good. I'd just like to remember a good friend of mine that passed away on Saturday morning. The gentleman's name is Ken Morgan with Morgan's Garage. He just put his laid to rest his dad 8 months prior. He was in his 90s. Ken was about 67, but suffered from cancer. Excellent guy and hunter, fisherman, and just outstanding individual. Brought joy to everybody's life that he crossed paths with. Anybody else? Yes, Tom.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess I can take this off now. I can hear me. Very, very good friend I grew up with, Barbara Ann Bethel Burrows, passed away last week. She said we grew up together. Then we had our Earth Day in North Fork about 3 weeks ago, and she gave the opening ceremony. And she's Mono Indian, and she gave sang a Mono song, and I actually have it on. I videoed it, and her sister Elaine Fink. Elaine Bethel Fink is the chairman of the Mono Council and Tribal Council, and she asked me when they have the service, I think it's on the 12th, to be able to play those. So he's a great leader, a great elder, and he's going to be really missed. So she was one of 12 kids, and this is the first one. I talked to Gertie, her mom. She's 104 years old. I talked to her Friday before I went up to my cabin, and says it's just really hard to lose one of your kids. And I said, yep, I know what it is, hon. So anyway, she was a great lady. I can't say enough about her. So she's going to be missed. Thank you.
All right, very good. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, in honor of our veterans, Memorial Day, we had a very poignant service yesterday at Chowchilla, and I know they had one in Madera, and I was privileged to speak at the one in Chowchilla. But I'd like to include all those who have given their lives the ultimate sacrifice for our country in our remembrance this morning. It's because of them that we're able to gather here in freedom and to conduct business, to live and as we please, because of their sacrifice, their blood sacrifice, and it's a hallowed remembrance. Thank you.
Yes.
One more. Also, Don Schnorr passed away just last week. Yeah. So just wanted to open and close in his memory as well, and to the Schnorr family, Martin Azzies, and
I did not know that. Don was a close friend of mine. I just hadn't heard that.
yeah, May 24th he passed away.
All right.
Great guy too. Very gregarious man.
Well, thank you very much. And we'll move on to the invocation and Pledge of Allegiance. To lead us in the invocation today, we have Pastor Dennis Sylvester from the First Assembly Church of God, and he'll be leading us. And so let's all stand.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for this privilege. Let's pray. Father, our God in heaven, we bow before you and acknowledge who you are. And then we ask of you your favor and blessing. May this meeting be filled with cordiality and understanding and productivity. We pray your hand upon what is said and what is done, and that for the benefit and the good of the people of our community. Thank you. Amen.
Everybody join. Thank you. We'll now move on to the public comment portion of the meeting. And just as a reminder, the first 15 minutes of each regular session are set aside for members of the public to address the board on any matter under the jurisdiction of the board, but not appearing on the agenda. The board will not take action on any items presented under public comment. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. Anyone addressing the board is asked to print their name clearly on the speaker sheet at the podium and state their name and county of residence for the record. I'd also like to mention that this would not be the time if you are here to make a comment on item 7A or 7B. There will be time at that point to make a comment, but this would just be for any items that are not on the agenda.
Good morning. I'm Sally Moreno, and I'm your elected district attorney. I live in the Madera Ranchos. I'm here today to let you know about something that I think is going amazingly well here in Madera County, and that is the changes that have happened in the last 18 months or so in our Human Resources Department. I loved our prior department head at Human Resources and consider her a personal friend. When the new department head came in, I got to admit I had a few questions. But I've worked with Ms. Gomez now for these 18 months, and I've watched, first of all, her diligence, and I've watched her adjust things here in Madera County to make us competitive in the Valley. To date, I know that she's helped with the recorder, clerk recorder and elections department, adjusting their salaries, making us competitive, and giving me as a department head and other department heads the ability to keep our employees and not train good people just to have them moved away to other counties who have better or different compensation structures. I've seen her align the job descriptions to match what people are doing, job descriptions that have remained the same for decades. In my own office, job descriptions changed from clerk typist type to legal secretaries, which is exactly what we're doing. So to see these things get upgraded is amazing to me. I've also watched her help social services make similar changes. I can't read my writing. Other departments, but a number of departments that she's helped, including my own, getting our salaries adjusted and our job descriptions up to date to match. Another great thing that I think she's done for us is to increase accessibility and availability of training for department heads. We had an amazing training on how to write positive performance evaluations and how to deal with it when you have performance evaluation issues, which is another really, really important thing for us to be able to do, to reward those employees that are good and to help other employees to improve. So I just wanted to say the change that we made when we got Elba Gomez as our Human Resources Director was an amazingly positive change for Madera County. And I know she's helping to make Madera County the best county in California to work, live, and play. Thank you.
Thank you, Sally, for saying that.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Seeing none, or not seeing anybody rushing up to the podium, let's go ahead and move on to the consent calendar. Are there any items on the consent calendar that a supervisor, one of my colleagues, would like to have pulled for further discussion? Supervisor Gonzalez.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to pull items K, L, M, and N for discussion and a separate vote, please.
Okay, very good.
And, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to pull L, J, O, P,
L, J,
P, W, X, Z, A, B, A, C.
Okay, so I lost you on P. What's after P?
P, W,
W, okay.
X,
Okay.
Z,
D,
A, B,
okay,
A, C.
okay. Very good. Well, let's go ahead and start on item J.
I got I as first.
Oh, you have I first. Okay. Yeah, I didn't. Okay, let's go with I.
Okay. Hello, Joe.
right.
First of all, what is the Madera Coalition for Community Justice?
It's an organization led by Baldwin Moy. That,
Oh, it's his group?
Yes.
Okay, that's all I need to know.
We've worked with them before in the rental, in the previous program for rental assistance.
I didn't know it was the name of his group. so-
Right, yes.
Okay. And then, does this have much to do, this money, there's quite a bit of it for Eastern Madera County?
It's for a countywide supervisor. So
I know
it's,
yeah, I know it's kind of, but are we doing anything up there?
yes, so let me provide a little background on rental assistance. So when the federal government approved the rental assistance program, bigger counties and more urban counties got their funds directly. So Fresno and Merced were running their own programs. For small rural communities, the federal government gave it to the states to administer.
Right.
Instead of pushing those funds, the state created a statewide program. The route that state chose is to award it to a large nonprofit based in Los Angeles. That's what SB 91 did. The issue that CAPMC and MCCJ identified was that the nonprofit was slow in getting marketing materials and outreach to small communities. So we've been in contact with them since SB 91 passed.
Last year, right, about
It's
June
January,
or something?
2021.
Oh, okay.
The issue why it took us this long to approve this contract is we didn't know how to fund them, right? Because the rental assistance is funded by the federal government, but we had to wait until the rescue plan funds got approved for the county to fund this extra service to make sure that our landlords and tenants that live in the community are able to navigate the statewide program. So whereas like Fresno, they got their federal dollars they can run a rental assistance
Their own.
program from the ground up, including the outreach. So we had to build that bridge because our guess is that the nonprofit base in LA got overwhelmed, so they can't do the outreach to 36 small and rurals. We need to tap our own nonprofits to make sure that
They-
our residents don't lose out. And yes, they're planning to provide this countywide.
Yeah.
But
Well, I hope so, because, you know, I know Baldwin does a good job, but I don't know if he's done anything up in the mountains.
I don't know for, exactly, but we can get that information, Supervisor. But
I want to know, because I got people all the time telling me, you know, for one thing, we can't even find no rentals, but the second thing is that they've been hurting, you know, over this last year, and so I want to make sure that we got them under control.
And one of the things the two agencies are planning to do as part of this service is to contact landlords and, you know, landlords directly, because
Well, yeah, but some of them are, you know, completely, maybe even out of state, but they don't even live
right.
in their county.
And if we can capture them, because it's better for the tenants if the landlords participate. So the
Oh,
focus
yeah.
is to outreach both, but really a focus on, hey, landlord, you have good tenants here. Let's work, you know, let's help, you know, get them caught up.
Right,
So.
okay.
And Supervisor Rogers, you have a question on the same item.
Yeah, the amount of the outreach, or the amount of the program is 61,745, but the agreement for administrating that is 9,500. That's 15%. Why is it so high?
Supervisor, actually, there's two agreements.
Yeah.
The CAP MC portion is 61,000.
Oh, okay.
The MCCJ is 9,500.
What's the actual allocation of the program then?
So the state allocated for this area $11 million from the federal rental assistance
okay.
program.
Okay.
We're not administering that. CAP MC is not administering that. A statewide vendor, I don't know the acronym, but it's LISC, L-I-S-C, is running the statewide rental assistance program. The role of MCCJ and CAP MC would be to make sure that our residents navigate, you know, the state rental assistance program, because there's a lot of requirements, and there's a partnership between landlord and tenant that needs to happen to make sure it's the best outcome for both. That's what these two agreements are for. It's an extra service that we recommend, but we feel that it's a necessary service because the nonprofit assigned to administer this statewide is not local. And we feel like MCCJ and CAPMC know the landlords, know the tenants here. They're better positioned. And the reason why there's more money in CAPMC is because how MCCJ and CAPMC split this is MCCJ focuses on the more extreme cases at imminent risk of eviction versus CAPMC at risk of eviction.
Okay, and there's adequate checks and balances in place, and there are going to be audits of this.
Yes, sir.
System.
The agreements are administered by our office, and we work closely with MCCJ. So they're supposed to provide us reports on who they've helped, refer. Now, we don't issue the rental assistance, but they're supposed to keep stats on how many residents they've helped, whether they're unincorporated, incorporated. This is supposed to be countywide. If they're in the city, they're still supposed to serve them.
Do ethics apply here as far as like nepotism, that kind of thing?
You should always apply, right?
I think that's.
That's why I'm asking. Are we going to be looking at that? And should a person involved in applying these funds disclose the fact that their cousin is getting, you know, rental
Half of it?
assistance, their grandma is getting rental assistance?
Right, Supervisor. I believe the disclosure requirements and the agreement requirements of the statewide program do cover that. Part of the reason why we wanted to help, we're not creating our own application, right, sir? We're just helping constituents navigate the statewide, and it is a pretty robust application process and screening process at the state level. This is more, we wanted to avoid the risk of our residents who may be eligible don't even hear about it because the marketing is so behind
Right.
at the state level.
Right. I just get concerned when we start a new program, and I'm not pointing the finger at any of these organizations. They all do a fine job. But I just, since it's in our care, I want it to be done right, and we don't want any after-the-fact problems coming up saying, hey, everybody in Madera County is working with their relatives over there passing money out. So.
Right. Supervisor, we will make sure that whatever checks and balances we implement with these two agreements,
Thank you.
you take over that.
Thank you.
Very good. Item J.
Yeah, that's mine. That was, we've already been briefed on that one, and I'm pretty okay with it. Some of these I worry about with our budget hearings coming up next week, and I'm just wondering about all these different changes before our budget. We don't even know what we have or don't have. At least I don't anyway. I just got this morning. I guess it was handed out to us last week. Nobody told me about it, obviously, but it was on my desk this morning, and I'd like to know that stuff. So anyway, I'm okay with that right now. So we're okay on that?
Yeah,
Okay. And item K.
So, Mr. Chairman, if I may, items K, M, and M seem to be related. It looks like it's a reorganization of the department, and I have a couple of concerns with just the process and it not being as transparent as it can be. My concern is with the budget hearings coming up. I did receive my budget book last week, and going into a $6 million deficit, I'm very concerned about these figures. In some cases, there's folks who are making six figures and we're giving them more. And this is absolutely no reflection on the staff, but we have limited resources, and there's a lot of people who are overworked and underpaid, and I don't understand the process of how we cherry-picked certain departments to change the structure. I don't know if the full picture has been fully vetted, if we've gone out for recruitment for a new fleet person. So I'm just very concerned with going into the budget next week, and then later on in our item regarding the Biden dollars, if you look at the board letter on page 2, it says that replace lost revenue due to the pandemic with the goal of partially mitigating workforce reductions in critical public safety services. It goes on to say that the county will still face a significant financial challenge and will need to implement workforce reductions. So my concern is that, we're going to be talking about potential reductions, whether it's budgets, whether it's staff, whether it's programming, and we're giving increases when we can't afford it. So I have several concerns on those 3 items. I'd like to pull it or I don't know if this is the right timing. The optics are really bad. I feel that, we have a room full of people who can't afford their garbage, and we're not a rich county, and we're trying to pay. And I do appreciate District Attorney Moreno's comments about, getting our staff, but when we don't have the money, we don't have the money. So I'm very concerned, and I'm not prepared to support this restructuring at this time.
Okay, so I'm not sure.
I got a comment on that one too,
Sure.
because I pulled those same ones.
Okay.
First of all, I don't know, because we haven't been briefed on these, all those K, L, M, N, and O, no, O, M, K, PM. Wait, I better do this. Yeah, O and P, I'm okay. So I'm clear to N, K to N. We done a study a few years ago. Have you read it? On redeveloping all of our departments and all that?
Yes.
Okay, good. But you haven't explained that to me yet, maybe the rest of them, I don't know. I'm not ready to vote on any of these. I don't know, especially like she said, the budget's coming next week, and there's a lot of money here. What happens to these people that you're doing this with? What happens? Are they replacing somebody? If they are replacing them, what are they going to be doing? The ones that you're replacing them with? Because they're still here. And I'm not ready for this either. I'm going to make a motion to pull K, L, M, and N and put it on a later agenda meeting after we do our budget. I'm just not ready for that yet to figure out that, and I don't want to, we got a lot of people here on a very important deal that's coming in 5 minutes. And so I want to pull those, I want to make a motion to pull those for a later budget, after our budget hearing, whenever you want to put it on the agenda after that. And our different department heads, I've been on here a long time now, and they always bring us a breakdown of how they want to rearrange their departments. And I've had them many times on the whiteboard in there, write it all out for us so dumb Okies like me can figure out what it means.
Right.
I don't know what this means. It's way over my head, so I'm trying to figure it out. And I studied it for a long time last night. I started to bring it up here again on the agenda, on my laptop, but I don't want to do that right now. We got too many important things we want to do, so I make that motion. I don't know if somebody will second it. I don't know if you don't want to, that's fine too.
So you're saying K through N? On M and K, aren't we going out for?
M I know about, because we
don't we
did
have
meet
to-
over there and talk about that. I have not as much about that, but the whole idea is, I thought when we talked about it
The
that
question
day.
on M, isn't that to advertise under that?
Yeah,
Or-
so that's
'cause
the
we don't
current automotive shop supervisor that was revised to a
Right.
fleet services manager. And because of the changes in the job description, we had to do a salary review and do comparisons. So the changes that are in most of these items is because of the significant changes that we made to job descriptions. And each one of those has a salary review that we did with other counties, cities, and comparisons to make sure that we recommend the correct salary for those positions to make them competitive.
And M is a vacant position at this point, right? We have an interim in there, but
Correct.
that needs to go out to be advertised, correct?
Correct. So
We've
if I
waited
just-
this long already, Brett, so I don't mind, putting it off for 2 weeks. We're gonna have our budget hearing starts next Monday. We'll see if we pass the budget, see if it's even in the red or the blue or the black. I don't know what it's gonna be. I haven't had a chance to even look at it, so nobody's told me about it, so I have no idea what's going on.
All right, I second your motion to,
Mr. Varney, you have a comment.
I just wanted to clarify on the fleet services manager, we are not going out to fill that position anytime soon because we're keeping it in line with what's in your recommended budget, that we're going to leave certain positions open for a certain period of time to capture the salary savings. However, with that, we did check with the sheriff and the current person who's working that job as extra duties as assigned, and there is no, they are well acquainted with our desire to leave that person in there for 3 or 4 more months, and they are fine with that status-wise, so there's no pressure on the board to make a decision today on that particular item, so you can table that one also if you'd like.
so, yeah, I think what it should be is to table it, because if these are what's in this next budget, then we'd want to know if that budget passes. If we just vote on them, it looks like it would probably go away. I'd like to see what the salary savings are that we're living within our means.
Exactly,
And,
but like we've done before, Brett.
yeah,
Yes. So that's why, one of the reasons why we put the effective dates of July 1, 2021, because a lot of it had to do with depending on the budget.
But we should have waited after the budget hearing. That's the bottom line. There's a couple of seats out here. I see people, if you guys, empty ones. There's one up here, and there's one right over there, 2 over there, in fact, 34 row, right here.
so Tom, your motion was to table those items?
Yes.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We are looking at these items separately, and so I will ask for any public comment on these particular items
So
at this time as well.
ALM
Well, it
and
looks
N.
like Jay has,
Yeah, just for
Yeah.
clarification, I understand the board's concerns with these, but the reason they were brought to you before the budget is to consider them in your budget without having to do an entire additional set of adoptions after your budget's adopted. We brought them to you on the front end, and certainly it's the board's right to table or vote no on these, but you will not be able to consider these in your budget next week because a number of these positions do not exist right now. So some you will, and some you won't. I just wanted to clarify that's why it came in front of the budget.
Just so, Jay, so you understand where I'm coming from, I want to know what all those positions, what they entail. I want to see the breakdown of that OHR department, what they are doing, why we need that many analysts, what have you, who was doing this before? I mean, all that kind of stuff needs to be broke down. You've been in there when we've done that. We haven't got that.
Yeah.
Need that.
All right, if there's no comments from the public, we have a motion and a second roll call vote. This is for K, L, M, and N.
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler,
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier.
Yes.
Supervisor Gonzalez.
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers.
Yes.
Chairman Poitras.
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Okay. So let's move on to item,
I think that approved the rest of it.
no, because we
Tom
still
still
have
has
items.
clarification.
Got items.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, so item O.
That one was briefed on. I just pulled them because I just wanted everybody to know that what we're doing and how we're doing it. I completely agree with it, so I'm okay with that. Same with item P. We went through that, the whole thing. They gave us a breakdown on it. I just wanted to explain to it, Rod, what my reasoning why I did the other ones, okay? That makes sense?
Uh-huh.
Okay. And on item W, I don't understand, who's going to take number, public health? Does anybody have public health, I hope? Joe, or do you know anything about it?
This is a donation from Calviva.
Oh, okay.
Item W,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I sit on that organization, and they supplement, I believe this is supplement COVID response.
Yeah, it is, but what I don't understand is $150,000 last year and it's $5,000 this year. I just didn't understand
Well,
why.
it's just,
Just the extra money they got, or
Yeah.
where did it come from? Out of the
yeah,
sky,
that,
or?
they, after they utilize the money they need for their operations, there's always money that, in a pot left over. We always
Out of the
make
state
sure.
then?
Yeah, and
Okay,
we
so
always
that
make sure
state
that.
gave us an extra 5,000 on
Yeah.
top of the 150.
Right.
Okay.
David told me we didn't need it.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, item X, this is, we got a big thing coming up, with the mandatory stuff that the state does to us. One of the things they also do in item K is our Fairmead landfill cell liner expansion. It's a $3 million, $3,160,467 for a liner expansion. I just think when we do these big jobs, even though the day is, I think it's a pretty big deal with all the people here. I think it should be on the regular agenda, not on the consent calendar. So maybe Jared, you can explain what the liner thing is. I know what it is, but does the public know what it is? Some of the dollars that you all pay for your garbage, this is what some of the dollars go for.
Yeah, thank you, Supervisor, Chairman of the Board members, Jared Carter, Public Works. Yes, this contract is for the expansion at the landfill, to expand the next unit in the landfill so that we have capacity to take on the waste from the county. And you're correct that the tipping fees and rates that are charged through various components of the solid waste program go towards the budget that funds this work so that we have the ability to keep the landfill operational and take on that waste and also stay in compliance with all the state regulations that we have to follow.
Okay. Thank you, Jared, very much. AB, Jay, you might have to come back. No, here comes Andrea. That's great. AB is says in the backup they haven't got enough money in the budget. Is it coming up for a 218 vote on that, or it seems like it wasn't that long ago we were transferring money for them again, so we're doing it again, or am I wrong on that?
Yeah, so good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Andrea Saldati, Deputy Director with Public Works. This transfer is a transfer of appropriation, so it is their own money just being moved into a line item where they can spend it. They are due for a rate study, and we will start that process in the next fiscal year.
Okay, it's due then.
Yes, it is due, yes.
Okay, but it says that their budget didn't have enough to cover it. in the backup?
Yes, so we budget for money and appropriations for contingency in case things break, or essentially it's like a savings account kind of line item. And so when we need to, we are able to move it through this process.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And the same, the AC, same one is that, do we do anything on a debt service like that on the Bass Lake one on district, special district, not special district, but service district 002?
Yeah, so for AC, that is to pay the administrative fees for the bank. The bank actually holds all of the money for us, and then as we ask for it, they give it out to us. So that $2,000 is essentially just an invoice from the bank.
I'm doing that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Tom, did you pull item Z too?
Trying to find which one it was. Yeah, great, right, next page. I'm sorry, yes, item Z, Sheriff's Office. I didn't quite understand it, maybe I didn't read it right. Joey or the sheriff, whoever was gonna talk about it, they're both here. I know Joey didn't try it. We awarded that in the late 2020, and we're just now doing this contract again and renewing it, but then I read back a little bit later, and then in the backup, and it said that it actually runs to June of this year, right? The old contract? Joey, is that right, or?
Good morning, Board. It's a change to the contract. Blue Ridge actually moved out of state, so they're only able to provide certain services, so we had to change the scope of work, and then some of the prices did increase from the last contract.
And are they gonna do some of the brushing with that on the side of the roads?
Yes, this is for the tree mortality mitigation efforts along the roadsides.
How about the trees from the Moto Wind, like on 426 and 223 and those ones laying there?
If the trees are still presenting a hazard to the roadway, they will be eligible for removal.
Perfect. What I wanted to hear. Thank you. Thank you, guys. And they did a great job. They took out, how many trees? 20,000, Joey?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, 20,000 trees in that 2 years. And we got all the money from the state. We actually, the board voted, we had a 25% matching. It was 478,000.
Yeah,
Coming that
500,000.
They all voted to help fund that for us up there. And then, so CAL FIRE thought we'd done such a great job, they actually passed some kind of a thing up there. And if Joey sent the bills in to CAL FIRE, they reimbursed us that money. So thank you, board, again, for voting for that for the Eastern Madera County, and then we got the money back.
When doing the right thing works out.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. Otherwise, we couldn't have got that money. What, 4 million, 6 million? What was all together total? 6 million.
6 million.
Total. Okay, and then, let's see, AB, Lavina, same thing. Oh, we already did that one. Oh, I missed Z. Okay, that's all I got.
Yeah,
Sorry, Chairman.
I was thinking, should I remind Tom that he forgot Z or not? And I thought, I'm going to remind him. I may pay for it, but I'm going to remind
Oh,
him.
you did. I'll pat you on the back, buddy. Thank you very much. Thank you for being patient with me, and some of these questions I just think need to be answered for me.
Okay. Are there any members of the public wishing to comment on any consent calendar items? Seeing none?
I move to approve the consent calendar minus K, L, M, and N.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Supervisor Willer?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Gonzalez?
Yes.
Chairman Poitras?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Okay, thank you. We'll now move to the public hearings, items 7A and 7B. And I believe we have Mr. Trieber to make the introduction.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Matt Trieber, Chief of Development Services, here on item 7A. As the board is aware, and I think the public, we have two public hearings, timed items 7A and 7B, dealing with Senate Bill 1383 and the solid waste item before the board. As was discussed on May 18th at the Public Works solid waste workshop, the board does have an opportunity to do any number of things on this item, including closing this hearing and counting the protest votes. Staff is available, continuance and others. So we have engaged substantially with Cal Recycle over the last month, as well as our state legislators, and working through these regulations and seeing how we can best work with that. So again, staff is available for any questions that the board may have, and staff is in the back standing ready for counting protests if it is the board's will. With that, I'll stand and see if the board has any questions.
Supervisor Frazier.
Yeah, so one, I appreciate everybody being out here today. For any of you that have been following this along, you know, we've hated this because this is something that's being placed on us personally as well, as ratepayers, as business owners. There has not been a whole lot of explanation of how this is supposed to be enacted from Cal Recycle to us. It's a state passed mandate that we all feel is a gross overreach that is going to cost businesses and residents millions of dollars across the state to not really accomplish what it is that they're saying they're trying to accomplish. It's not going to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in rural counties where you have to add extra trucks to go pick this up. I've asked different questions in regards to my business, which is a restaurant, and how I'm going to separate out the food waste. If I have it in plastic bags where I collect it, am I going to just have to put it in bins, which I don't think anyone will want to go into my restaurant or any other restaurant as it smells too bad in there. You know, this is one of those things that's a one-size-fits-all edict from Sacramento that puts down to us a state unfunded mandate that then we have to then collect from our residents. And we've been working with RCRC, CSAC, like Matt said, our legislators, other legislators from other counties, Cal Recycle, to say, pump the brakes, we can't, this doesn't make sense in an area. You know, it goes down to you have to have mandatory collection for areas of 75 residents or more. Well, this bill is written for San Francisco, LA, San Diego, and I did really quick this morning. LA average is 7,009 residents per square mile. That's pretty easy to collect that and have economies of scale. San Francisco, it's just a paltry 18,440 residents per square mile. So when you're going down the alley and you're picking up 1,000 residents each 50 feet, you know, that's a big difference. And they're not, when you look on Cal Recycle's website, it says, you know, the average, it's only going to go up about, you know, 3 to 5% per connection. Well, not here, not when you have to drive, you know, miles and miles just to get to another household. And so we've been working with them. We had a great call on Friday where they're starting to see that from Madera County. Your voices were heard, our voices were heard. We appreciate, you know, how quickly we can all band together as Maderans to see when something is wrong and try and right that and figure out where we go from there and do it in a way that is logical. And to be able to go forward and do that in a logical way is probably not at this time. You know, I think we have we can get there in a much better way with some extra time. And I'll yield my time to Supervisor Wheeler.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, I did forget one main point, and Supervisor Frazier touched on it briefly. We did have a call on Friday with Cal Recycle representatives and others and RCRC. There is a Senate bill moving right now, Senate Bill 619. It actually just passed the Senate, and it just went into committee on Friday, the 28th of May. So it is moving forward. The big impetus of that Senate bill is basically exactly what Supervisor Frazier just spoke of, which is a bit of a pumping of the brakes by Cal Recycle. That bill would prohibit Cal Recycle from taking any enforcement action against any local agency for compliance with Senate Bill 1383 until January 1st, 2023, so long as that local agency is making a good faith effort, and that's the exact verbiage in that Senate bill. So we're obviously tracking that closely through this process as well. I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, thank you, both of you. I was on that call Friday for an hour and a half, and it was very enlightening, especially since a few of the Cal Recycle people were at my town hall meeting on this SB 1383. How many of you were on my town hall when we had that? Few of you, I appreciate it very much. I know you were. He spoke at it, so thank you. It was very important, and at that call, so you guys know, the top 15 counties has 93% of all of that waste. The rest of us, they left no flexibility for us, and that's what the problem was. SB 1383. But that SB 619 will help with that, and it's really nice to hear because they were on my town hall, and our staff has been uno number one in the state fighting this. We've been fighting this. You know, how many of you know it was passed in September of 2016? That's when this bill was passed. And somebody raised your hand. Thank you. I know John knows because I gave it to him. So but it's, you know, and we've been fighting it ever since, you know, because I knew it was going to be a big hit on us. And it's been ugly. But the Cal Recycle and RCRC, our lobbyists, every one of them, we had a workshop last Monday. Our lobbyists came down. We talked about a lot of stuff, but I talked about SB 1383. And they've been actually a little bit on it. The lobbyist that was for the RCRC was on that call Friday, and he works with Paul Yoder's group. So they were going to get together too to help support this SB 619 and give some flexibility to us rural counties that's getting literally screwed with this thing, you know. And so people know why the cost is going to go up so much, because that economy of scale is so true. But our hauler, Madco's got to hire 15 to 17 people, buy probably 7, 8, 9 trucks, because you can't haul this kind of good garbage, as they call it, in those old trucks, in those other type trucks. And $1 million worth of those bins just for our area. And so you wonder why this cost is. Well, we're not the only ones getting hit like that, all the rural counties. And like I said, there's no flexibility. So here, all this stuff has been coming up, and in light of that really great meeting we had on Zoom, and I got the list of the people who's on it, probably what? I could name off, say there's probably 12 of us, I guess, 14 of us, including our CAO, our lawyer, our staff. We had everybody on it because this was that important to us. And I really appreciate you all coming in. I got tons of emails, and I wore my little iPhone out. I got to send every one of those to Karen, because she's one that gives them to staff that has to count them. And I gave them to our chairman, so he probably got bug-eyed looking at all those. But I thank all of you for doing that, because that's what it counts. But so in light of all this delay and the thing that they're using is the census data from 2020. Well, Cal Recycle's consideration of waivers and the county's ongoing discussion with Cal Recycle realizes that, you know, in about October, those will come out, that new census, and those new census tracts is what they determine. But what is it, How many per?
75.
Yes, thank you Supervisor Wheeler. So yes, the census tract data, as we all know, has been delayed. It was supposed to be out in April. It has not been out. They say they anticipate September now to have that, and that's what Cal Recycle bases those census
Numbers
tract
from.
population data off of. So to be clear to the board and the public, we've been using the most recent and current census data, which is 2010 census data on that. So,
You hear it up there?
so just to make that point,
I hear something.
you are correct. 2020 census data, which would also drive the implementation of Senate Bill 1383, would be that census data is not
Right.
due until September.
So you might have got a letter this time, but you might not next time. Or you might have not got one and you're going to get one next time. And so when you order those bins, it takes, about 6 months to get them. So anyway, I considering the Senate passed 619-35 to 0, they still got to go with Assembly. Hopefully we get some writers in there to give us some flexibility. I'm going to make a motion to cancel the Proposition 218 public hearing in our mountain area and subject to, the future numbers when they come out, that we'll postpone this whole process until it might be clear to next year before they come out with those numbers. So, and especially if Prop SB 619 passes, then we've got, and like Matt said, they're not going to enforce this and for a couple of years. So I want to postpone the whole shit and caboodle, and
For all the areas, right?
Well, we have to
for
take
all
them
areas,
separately.
the mountain areas, I'm really concerned.
Yeah, I get
know,
you.
for the whole area, I'll make the motion for the
I'll
whole
second
area.
it.
Right.
7A is for the mountain.
But right now,
franchise
we're
area,
only
and we have to
considering the
take-
mountain area because
We
that's
have to
what
take
the,
7B separately.
that's what it's set.
I get
That's
it.
what
So
it's on.
second.
Thank you. Thank you.
And there still will be, in our contract with our haulers, that every 2 years, there's a cost of living that's automatically done. And that'll be coming in the next month or so anyway. So that was built into this. So since that's taken away now, if we pass this motion, that will have to still be done. Is that not correct, Matt?
Thank you, Supervisor Wheeler. So if I understand, the motion would be to cancel this entirety at this point and bring it back for consideration once we have that 2020 census data and an understanding of Cal Recycle's waivers of those areas. You are correct, right? Just to be clear to the board and the public that's attending remotely or in person, the current contracts with both EMADCO and Red Rock include an annual CPI increase and fuel index increase every July 1. So that will be proceeding. Now, that is a subscription base, so it does not come to the board. The board does not have a role in that. Typically, the haulers are required to submit that to the county, those annual increases. So that will be going into effect. I would anticipate the haulers doing that. It's in their contract to do that, this summer. I certainly don't have a clear picture when this may, right? Again, it's dependent on the feds releasing census tract data, Cal Recycle acting on that. But it would be a completely new notification that is provided to the public through any of these things. And if I heard the board clearly, we're not going to, we as staff are going to continue to stay engaged with Cal Recycle
Absolutely.
and others through this process. And so it'd be a whole new process. New rates would be prepared based on that census data, and new notifications certainly would be provided if and when that would be appropriate through this. So.
And so everyone knows too, we're still pushing to try to get at least Eastern Madera County exempted from this process period. That's my goal is to hit that. So we got a second on my motion?
Second.
Okay, now you want to finish?
I have a comment.
Okay, we still have a number of people that want to speak, and then we have to open up the public comment before we go to a vote. So Supervisor Rogers.
Yeah, I want to make it clear that the protest with the state of California on SB 1383 did not just begin a month ago, 2 months ago, 3 months ago. It began actually back in 2015 when this legislation started being pushed. And RCRC is an organization, you've heard the acronym over and over again. It's Rural Representatives of California. And we represent rural counties. There are 37 counties for the state of California that are member counties in RCRC. And they're a very strong and powerful lobby. We work hard for rural issues. And the RCRC believes that this should be rural exempt, that this is not a logical, that it's totally illogical, that it's as my colleague Brett Fraser said, it's one size fits all. They've crafted it in such a nature that they believe they can do the same thing here that they can do in San Francisco. We're not San Francisco, never will be. We live here because we're not San Francisco. We like what we are. And so we continue through RCRC, as we have for the last 5 years, fighting on this issue and many others, rural issues. We talk about insurance and various other things. RCRC is right on top of those problems that you're facing every day in the mountain areas, because we represent those regions. But this fight didn't begin yesterday. It began 5 years ago.
Thank you. Supervisor Frazier.
Yeah, just a couple of quick things on, a lot of these things that are in this SB 1383, as I've come to even see even more, are things that we're already doing, right? We're already composting. We're already doing these things and separating it on our own because that's how we live, right? That's how, country boy can survive, right? This is, but I do want to take this time to just thank staff of Public Works for fielding all of your calls. This is not something that they put in. It's something that they had to deal with. And I think they did it with great poise, and I appreciate all of their efforts trying to get the information out to people, to fielding the calls. And I'm sure sometimes they weren't fun calls to take, but they did a good job with that, as well as Red Rock and Amadco. Again, this was something that was forced upon them, and I saw, a lot of times we got painted with, and this is what Sacramento likes to do, is we pass it in our crystal tower, and then we pass it down to the locals to have to be the front line of it. And so I just wanted to thank the front line that had to be the face of the nameless, faceless bureaucracies in Sacramento. Meanwhile, they're also having to pay these rates, and they're not all that happy about it either. So I just wanted to thank them. I thought it was important to let them know that they're appreciated.
Very good. Supervisor Gonzalez.
Thank you. And just two things. I don't know if Supervisor Wheeler included this in his motion to include a letter of support for 619.
Can I add it to it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I want
I'll
to add that
accept
support to SB 619, a letter to tell them to try to get and add to it that we want to be exempted, Madera County, Eastern Madera County.
And then
How about all of Madera County? How about districts 1, 2, and 3, and 4? How about all of Madera County?
Well, I don't know if it's as serious as that, but you're right. I agree. I mean,
yeah. You got to show the love of these other districts, man.
I love you guys because you want to help me be able to get stuff done because I can't. I'm going to get one vote, so thank you. But,
yeah, $500,000 to help with the trees, but you just want us to pay all your trash rates?
Yeah, why not? I mean, shoot.
And then, Matt, can someone from your staff work possibly with Carla? I know there's some folks here that are Spanish speaking only, and if this information can be provided to them in Spanish, I'd greatly appreciate it.
Yep, absolutely, we can do that, Supervisor, and I've got the 619, and just to piggyback a little bit, I'd be remiss myself if I did not give a big thank you to Jared Carter, wherever he may be. He's taking the brunt of this, including
one.
including phone calls from my parents wondering why they're having to pay more as well. So big kudos to Jared and his whole team, Andrea Saldati, John Carlton as well in the hauler. So thank you.
Been a teamwork.
Oh, we still have to pass this.
Well, we still have public comment too, so let's go ahead and open it up for public comment. I'd like to remind everybody that the 3-minute rule applies at this time as well. So before we vote to following the motion, we do need to have public comment. So that is a right. So
I'm Dan Stoops, and I'm from District 5. SB 1383 will increase the rate we currently pay for trash pickup by 93%. My wife and I are on a fixed income. Oh, except for, by the way, Social Security. It went up in January 1.3%. I would recommend 1.3% increase rather than 93. How are we going to survive the inflation with this? Over 11,000 homes are forced to buy trash service who don't want it or currently have it. Why are we forced to buy something we don't have or want? Many seniors have very little trash, and some live alone, and they may put theirs with the neighbors. What's wrong with the people taking some of their trash to North Fork and dumping it there? And we have to have a third trash container for green waste and garbage. Those of us who have any acreage think it's silly. It's like filling a bathtub with a teaspoon. Doesn't work. What drives us is the fear of fire. I spent 3 days in Oakhurst and explaining SB 1383 and what it would do to us. After I explained this, the most common response I got was, "This is nuts. How can they do this?" We need a David to take on Goliath of Sacramento. And by the way, Goliath was 9.5 feet tall. He wore armor that weighed 175 pounds, and he was a seasoned fighter. David, on the other hand, he was a shepherd. He just came from his sheep, and he took on Goliath. You know what? 3,000 years ago, he beat Goliath because of his courage and his faith in God. Please, we need somebody with courage to do what is best for the Madera County and to do what is right. Will you stand with us? Will you defend the defenseless and help the helpless?
Hi, am I on? Okay. So my name is John Perro. I'm a resident in Alani, California. I'm on 40 acres out there. So let me just thank you first for what you've done. And it sounds like some of what we're going to say today is a little bit mute, but this is a stack of 456 protest votes that was received just this weekend. Okay. And I'm going to turn these in as soon as the meeting's over today. But so some of what I'm probably going to say is, if this passes, is mute. But I just want to cover a couple of things. And I've read through SB 1383, and it's very interesting in there. If you read through that, there is no definition of what climate change is. Is it natural? Is it man-made? And the only reference in 1383 for anthropogenic or man-made climate change is when they talk about carbon. And I think it was Brett mentioned earlier, you start running 7 or 8 or 9 diesel trucks up and down the road, you're going to create a higher carbon footprint than you have now. But the other thing on this is that it's specified a statewide goal of 50% reduction in organic waste. And when we asked the county, they didn't even have, from the 2014 level, they didn't know what the metric was. So if you don't know what the metric is, how are you going to have a 50% reduction when you don't know what the starting point is? So I just want to point that out, and not to mention all the wineries, the canneries, the packing plants, and so forth, and how that affects the food that Brent talked about as well. So thank you. Thank you for taking a stand on this, and hopefully this gets pushed out. It's not one size fits all, believe me. But it's just an example of, like you said, it's an example of people that live in the Ivy Towers that don't have a real grasp of the real world. We compost everything we do. I had 5 trees come down on my property early this year because of snow and wind, and I guarantee you I couldn't put those in a green recycle container. So thank you.
You haven't got chickens? You haven't got chickens?
Not my neighbor does.
Really? Man, I feed all my stuff to my chickens and peacocks. Come on up, buddy.
I'm here to protest the system because I was born in Communist County.
You got to say your name and address,
My
buddy.
name is John Scheer, 29775 Horseshoe Drive, postcode. I was born in Communist County. I know how the system works. When people are retired, they have very little money. Okay, they can afford to pay $90 for trash pickup. I don't even have no trash. My trash, what I got is 4 bags of like this of trash for 3 weeks. And I'm supposed to pay $90 for to haul this away? That's kind of ridiculous. That's a dictatorship. That's exactly what it is. You people laugh, but what I've been through dead cap, I went through everything. I served in the U.S. Army and everything. I know what it is. So be careful what you do, okay? End of speech. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Hello, thank you for hearing our comments. First, I wanted to say there is light at the end of the tunnel as far as the budget.
Name and address.
Oh, name and address, sorry. Victoria Williams, and I'm on Buckskin Lane, 15 minutes north of Oakhurst.
Great, thank you.
I wanted to say to Supervisor Gonzalez that there is light at the end of the tunnel as far as the budget because our area has gone crazy as far as real estate. And the prices are really high, so you will be getting at least some increase next year in property tax. So that should help. But regarding the issue of the garbage, I had a lot of comments, but my main request was that you postpone and reconsider this issue. And I'm wondering if during this time that you've now given yourself, or will give yourself in a minute, if you might consider looking for solutions that would be more practical for our area. In my lawn, all I have is pine needles and foxtails. So there's no point in collecting this. And because we don't have the water to have lawns and bushes. So, our neighborhood just doesn't have that kind of greenery. We do have household waste, and we figured that would come to about a 5-gallon bucket per week. And I'm wondering if you might want to use this time that you will be giving yourself to work with Imatco and let them, because it's their business, figure out better solutions than a huge garbage truck coming to pick up my 5-gallon bucket. Some kind of compost, neighborhood compost, bins that you could give each household for compost, some other way that the green waste could be used effectively and usefully to regenerate the soil. Thank you.
I'm Gary Marshall. I live on Bear Lane in Oakhurst. And I really appreciate the support of the Board of Supervisors, but one argument I'd like to have you pass on to them is that we live in another state mandated thing, and that's Public Resources Code 4291, which requires me in a rural area to maintain clearance of all the vegetation area 100 feet around my house. Well, I live in an area that's, chaparral, oak, and pine woodlands, so there's no way that you can pick up my waste every other week and haul it off and meet the 4291 mandates. It grows too fast. I mean, I got chaparral to take down, the pine trees that have come down the last couple of years, and even the annual pruning of those trees and brushes will far surpass what Imadco can haul away from my place. So the only way I get rid of it is to burn it. And if I burn it, then there's nothing for Imadco to pick up. So I appreciate your support, and I'd like to have you put the 4291 argument into your letter to the Cal Recycle. Thank you.
Yeah. Gary, I'm hoping all these people in Cal Fire is getting around to all the homes and inspecting them, because I know we had a 45-acre fire in North Fork last night. So I want everybody to know real quick before they get up and say too much is that Matco don't do this. I mean, we don't do this. The state mandated it. Like I said, 15 counties make 93% of all the green waste, and they expect us, rural counties, to try to keep up with them. We don't, just reading, most of us don't live in the cities. I couldn't live in it because I'd be in jail probably. But I just want you to know that Matco has worked with us from day one, trying to figure out how we could get this as low as we could by a state mandate. They're the ones that's got to figure out how they can take care of us rural counties, not one shoe fits all. Thank you. Go ahead now.
Hello, my name is Michelle Stevens, and I live on Bonadelli in the Ranchos. I'm in District 1, Brett's district. And we're kind of a unique area in comparison to a few of the others because we have the rural areas, but we also have a lot of new development. So we're getting the cities, meeting the country. And I think in the Ranchos, we were maybe a little slow to get going on some of this, but in talking with people, I mean, we would really appreciate that you postpone the vote on this and that we continue to try to work for a solution, whether it be volunteers or something to try to reach out to some of these other rural communities, which it sounds like RC, maybe some of that's what's going on there. I don't purport to know all of the back end of what's going on, but I think there are a lot of people in the community that would be willing to jump on board and start looking on trying to get some information together so we can collaborate and try to work harder, push harder, whether it be, looking for groups to form some sort of legislative, action to try to stop this, something. But please, please postpone this. These trash rates are just getting out of control. And I feel like in Madera, oftentimes, especially at the county, we're behind the wheel. We kind of went from this little rural thing and we've exploded population-wise with all of the new development in both the city and the county. So I appreciate that you're trying to be a little more forward-thinking, and I hope that we can continue with that forward-thinking and get some new faces maybe involved to help push some of that.
Yeah, Michelle, that was a good point. I think that everyone here, we're going to write a letter to SB 619. If every one of you people write Frank Bigelow and Andreas Borges and the governor, write those guys and tell them, we're out here in the boonies. We don't need your help. Period. There's way to fix this without doing that. So if every one of you would do that also, our letter means a lot. Your letters mean more.
Well, if there's some language that would be appropriate to get in there, please get the information out to us. I mean,
Well, I can tell you the language I would use, but they don't let me use it most of the time. That's the problem.
Yeah,
They always cut me off.
We'll get a form letter out, I think, so that everybody can use it and send it in, I think would be good.
because I know that we would definitely work to get that done. So I know the Ranchos is a very, big, close
And I know-
community, and we work together. And like I said, we were a little behind the 8 ball on this issue, but please know, I don't know how much you got as far as protest votes, but the community as a whole is up in arms over this
Yeah,
as well.
They are. We all are.
Agreed. And
I
again,
know
we understand
John's
it's
got
not
those
you.
Petitions. Petitions don't do a lot. You need individual letters. I mean,
Right.
when we get petitions, we can go over there and there might be 50% of them, with the right address and names and all that.
Right.
They don't care up there either. I've seen them with petitions.
Right.
Most of them.
Well,
go
we've
up there
gotten
and
some
not
pretty
file.
impressive things done in the Ranchos
Individual
before,
letters
so
from
we can do
you
it.
landowners with your address on there and your phone number and your email. Kick it to them. And that's what we
So
gotta
we'll work with my office. We'll get
Right.
some form letters.
Our
out.
chief of
Get a hold of
staff
me.
and stuff, we'll
Okay.
work with them and get some stuff out.
I think just stating what you folks have stated is great. Just tell them how you feel, and they're going to hear you.
Right.
Very
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Hello, Brian Reams, District 1.
I have a bit of a unique perspective on the solid waste industry in Madera County, being that I ran the Fairmead landfill for about 10 years as a contractor. The one thing that, and I get government regulation. I mean, AB 633, we implemented that, which, complied with state regulation on recycling. But in my case, I'm not here about any of that. I'm here really about impact. I have 3 developed properties in District 1, and if mandatory without some form of exclusion might increase alone, I also have an undeveloped property in Corscold, is $1,636 a year. So if the county has any leeway on situations like that, I hope that they will consider that when they get around to the implementation phase, because I'm sure I'm not the only person who owns multiple properties in the county of Madera, and I'm hoping that it would be considered for some form of relief or exemption. Thank you.
I don't think bare properties is just homes. If Matt or one of Jared, it's just homes, isn't it? It's not bare property.
From what I understand, it's developed versus undeveloped. That's the definition the staff gave me.
Right.
So
that one in
if
Corscold-
you got a house, the one in Corscold, I wouldn't expect to pay for, but having 3, and given that I'm a firm believer in recycling, my wife and I make about a garbage bag of trash a week, and everything else gets recycled. I take glass for no cost to recycle because I believe in it. I can't do it. I can't throw it in the trash can. It's unfortunately, I implemented a recycling program, so, I believe in it. But this, I don't believe in.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Gary Kittredge, and I live part-time in Bass Lake. And I'm mainly talking about not just the rate, but many of us in here don't even need and don't want trash pickup. And I know it's been said before by others. But it's not fair for us to have to pay for something we don't need and we don't want. I know in the Bass Lake area, I would say maybe half the people up there at most even need the service. And the reason that we don't
in
need
the summer
during the summer, yeah.
When
But
they
those
have
people are already on
Airbnbs,
service.
buddy, they are full. They
Yeah.
2 or 3 times a week.
Yeah.
I know. I'm sorry.
But they're already on service, and they're happy to pay it because they have tenants. I'm probably up there at the most 15, 18 times a year. When I leave, I have a small basket of trash. But I'm mainly speaking for the people here that don't want it, don't need it. Most of us have a pretty good recycling program on our own. We're used to, in fact, most of these people that do that are probably the cleanest people on the planet because they take care of the trash issues. In Bass Lake, I'm also worried about the health and safety factors. You start bringing out a bunch of trash, people are going to be leaving. They leave it out on a Monday and it gets picked up on Saturday. It's going to sit there all week long for the bears and the varmints and the raccoons and everything else. So it's not a good idea, especially for Bass Lake area. I think we're going to have more problems up there with trash service than the way it is now because there are just too many people that's going to leave their trash out and it's not going to get picked up. The bears will love it. So, but most of us here are upset because if we don't use the trash system, we don't want the trash system, period. We don't need it. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jay Gillespie. I've been a permanent resident, Bass Lake, Willow Cove for 20 years, and my family home is 66 years. So this is new to me, 66 years, trash. Everybody that wants trash has their trash service. My big problem, just like Gary stated, people either put their trash out, I see it in the summertime. I have 2 resident bears, and I have families and families of raccoons. I've called Wildlife Trapper, I met with him, won't do anything about the bears. The big issue, why are we required to have this service when our other residents, the residents that are not residential, like, year-round residents, but the vacationers, they come up, they don't want trash service because they take their trash home with them because they pay for their trash service at their permanent resident. I have a permanent resident, so I have the choice. Why now? 66 years of my family being up there, why are they requiring us to have trash service? How much bigger has the population gotten? In my area in Willow Cove, there's less than a half a dozen people live up there full time. In the wintertime, the trash trucks will just come up and down the road to put smoke in the air. That's
Write your
how I
letter
see
to
it.
the state, buddy.
That's how I see it. Thank you very much for your time.
Billy Joe Anderson, Bonneview Drive, Oakhurst. So my biggest thing is that we own a business in Fresno. We have to pay trash in Fresno. We don't generate a lot at home. So where do we take our trash? Our one bag a week goes down to Fresno. So we really don't need the service. But as you said earlier, to write Sacramento, where do you even get the information? People like me don't know this. So if you could, like, we all received this letter at our homes about the meeting today. If that would come to us with all the information of like you suggested, sir, about a form letter, that would be perfect. Anything to help us help you to make this so that Sacramento can't do this to us. Thank you all very, very much for your time. I
Thank you,
really
Billy Jo.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Leonard Bedola. I live at 14589 Road 28, District 4. The trash service there, I'm a multi-home owner. I got 5 units, 5 homes. That'd be pretty costly. I got receipts where I go take my garbage. I got my paperwork where I take and recycle my cans, plastic, cardboard, bottles, the whole bit. I got all of them here. My dump receipts, I don't go to the one in Madera because it's pretty costly. It's $61 or something like that a ton. I pay $24 a ton in Fresno, so I take it to Fresno.
Economy
I
of
make
scale.
more money in doing my own trash to have somebody else come over, and I got to pay them where I'm even losing money to take my own trash. I got grandkids, they're going to college, kids that go to college, and my son-in-law and my daughter that live on all these houses there. So it's not like it's a big profit or making money. All we're doing is living. My waste, I have 5 goats. They eat everything. I have chickens. I eat the chickens. I eat the goats. I don't have to go to the grocery store as often. I got 1 pig to eat all the slop that we got left over. Then it becomes bacon, and then we have a nice ham Christmas time.
You're a good man.
But I don't see where it's feasible for us to have this service, and we refuse to have the service.
Yeah.
If you want to deliver the cans, they'll be across the street. You can take them too. But I don't want the service. Thank you.
Thank you.
Supervisor Frazier, do you have a comment?
No,
or
I'll
you-
just wait until-
wait till
I'll
the
wait
end.
until
Okay.
after.
Thank
Well,
you.
you can pull it down.
I'm Doreen Blanchard from Corscold in Quartz Mountain area. I don't know the numbers because I just found out about this without enough time to prepare, but there's a lot of people who do not use in our mountain area a Modco trash service because we don't need it. They do a fine job. There's no reason not to use them if you have a need, but there are a lot of us just don't have that need. And something that I have yet to hear from anybody is I'm 57 years old. I have degenerative disc disease, and I do not want to be in 100-degree weather, in 28-degree weather, in rain, or in the snow, be hauling up 3 different garbage, waste, and recycle and green bins 150 yards up my driveway. That's a burden for a lot of people. And that's also why a lot of people don't do it, Modco, is because of that. I know Thursday, rain or shine, black ice, snow, so much smoke that I wear a mask in my living room. I don't want to have to be forced to get my garbage up there. And certainly the little old lady who lives next to me who has, one bag of garbage each week. That's a burden that many of us do not want to bear, don't deserve to bear, and cannot bear. Thank you.
Thank you, George.
Tom?
Doing, man.
Hi, my name's Tom Alcock, and I live on 45040 Forest Ridge Drive in Nippanawasi, and I have 3 acres there. So a little story, in March, I decided I was tired of hauling up those containers. I'd been doing it for 38 years, and I said, I'm tired of doing this, and I put all my recycles in this blue thing, and they're not even separated. So I'm going to do it myself. So that's what I did. I brought my containers back to Amadco, said I'm going on vacation for like a year, I'll see you later. And I started collecting my, all of my recyclables in different containers, and I take them in when they're full, and I get paid for them, just like other people have said. And we really started producing less trash as a result of this. And so I got a little trash compactor, I compact my trash, and so like every 2 weeks or so, I go to the landfill, and all the waste that is not recyclable, I put in there. And as far as green waste goes, I got 3 acres, so that's already been covered by everybody else. So that's my little story about this thing, because as soon as I did this and made this thing on April 1st, I got this letter like a week later, and I went, what is this, a conspiracy? So that was, I don't know, I thought that was kind of amusing in a way. But I do believe that there is a clause in this SB 1383, and you're probably aware of it, and it's probably been talked about, but I can't hear worth a dang anymore, so if it hasn't been, there's a rural exemption based on a declaration of need by the county. Is that, you are familiar with that?
We've applied for it, we just haven't got it yet.
Okay.
We've applied for it, we just haven't got it yet.
Okay, and that's what I think that needs to be done here as a practical solution as an exemption, and if that can be done, it'd be great. If not, I don't know, I'm off the grid now anyway, so I don't even know if they're going to remember me. My little truck just drives right by me.
We got your letter, buddy, they remembered you.
No, I'm moving. Anyway, thank you very much, and I know we're all on the same page here, and I just hope that we can get this rural exemption thing done so that this really doesn't happen, and it'll be good for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Marlis Rohr. I live in Oakhurst. I have 17 acres, which is 2 parcels, one's 6.5, one's 10.25. The 10.25 property originally had a house on it, which we tore down, and it's been demolished. It looks like because it's developed, it has a well and power. I'm going to have to pay trash for a property that has nobody living there, and no one's lived there for 17 years. I'm sure I'm not the only one in this situation. I don't mind paying trash on my property, but why do I have to pay for the second parcel, which doesn't have a house? I want to build a house there someday. My second question is, there's a lot of people that we know that have vacation homes up here. They come up maybe 8 times a year. They take their trash bag down to Long Beach or Huntington Beach or wherever they go. Why do they have to pay for trash service that they don't need? They take their trash with them, they pay for it down south. So, also, how do we get information on joining this group? I think RC, if that's supposed to be fighting for us, how do we get their address? How do we, that's the kind of stuff we need to know.
Yeah, it's easily Googled. RCRC, Rural Representatives of California, is on a web page. They have, you're on, I believe it's K Street. It's 1212 K Street on the 16th floor. But anyway, in Sacramento.
Okay, so if they're fighting for us, I want to join their lobby and pay their.
Well, you're a member because of the fact of being a resident of Madera County. We are a member county.
Okay.
And so I represent you on that board.
Okay.
Every month we have meetings and And we've
Okay,
done a
that-
lot of fighting there.
Thank you very much.
You bet.
Good afternoon. My name is David. I live in Madera Ranchos off of Cloverleaf.
You only got one name?
Excuse me?
You said just Dan?
David.
David.
Yes, sir.
And what's your last name?
Holden.
Okay. I just write them down, that's all.
No problem. Been living at this residence for 8 years. Never had trash. The reason why is because me and 4 of my neighbors got together, decided, hey, how much trash do we need? We bought 1 dumpster. One person pays for it. We all put it in on the pot. 1 truck, 1 stop. Done deal. Haven't had to have trash service in 8 years. Haven't had to haul extra trash off. I have my wife, 4 kids, so it's total 6. The rest of the neighbors have 2 or 3 people in their parties. So I'm not for the trash. Maybe something to consider for other people. Get 1 dumpster, 1 truck, 1 stop. Done deal. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
Hi, my name is Mark Lemon. I live in Indian Lakes on Road 417. And I want to commend the board for their stance on this issue. It sounds like we're going in the right direction. I think what my issue with the whole thing is the flyer that came out, the portion of it says what happens if we don't approve the mandatory rates. And it states in there that the county is going to have to comply with it anyways, and the landowner has to comply with it. And if they don't, then there could be financial penalties given onto the landowner. Now, that's okay, but then you read down further and it says that, if the rate isn't passed, then the county will be forced to go ahead and implement it anyways at a 10 to 15% increased rate. To me, that's just a threat. My issue is how this was written. When you write these flyers and send them out, you need to make it a little bit more, explain it a little bit better so that the general public isn't feeling like they're being threatened with something they don't want. And basically, I've been in Madera County since 1988, and I love it here. Thank you.
Best place to work, live, and play.
Don BC, my address is 20283 Avenue 18 and a half. I don't have trash, well, I go to the dump 4 times a year. It's mainly paper because I have animals that take care of all my green waste, all food waste, everything. There's no reason for people in the county to have to deal with this. Now I've got neighbors, they have trash pickup. I've never had trash pickup. I've been born and raised here. And I don't see any reason why people somewhere other than this state, other places in this state have to force me to pay something I don't need. And thanks for fighting for us. And that's all I got.
Thank you.
Good noon. My name is Niall Jones. I live on 29243 Highway 145. If you're down on Highway 45 going up and down, you pass right in front of my house. I bet you wouldn't see a piece of trash. I have a dumpster, I have a 1-ton truck, and I fill up my dumpster and I take it to trash almost every other week. So why should be forced onto me? I'm taking care of my own trash. It should be optional. I am hoping that you guys vote on being optional. As long as I'm taking care of my trash, this shouldn't be forced on me because it's an extra expense. And I am a retired person and I live on a fixed income. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, almost afternoon. Thank you for having this hearing. Thank you for listening to the comments from the public, the residents in Madera County. My name is Hank Schultz. I live at 40239 Redbud in Oakhurst, and that is my official protest to this action. Beyond that, I would like to make some comments and most importantly, some suggestions. One, the legislation that's brought about this, both for residents and for commercial concerns, has been out there for 5 to 7 years. And I believe most residents, maybe commercial customers, have had some communication on this, but residents have had no communication. This wasn't a proposition that was voted on by the population. It was a Senate bill, SB 1383. So most of us are ignorant, and we really depend on the county and the solid waste department to communicate what's coming down the road. Because we do and we can make changes to our the way we live, and we can impact our trash. I appreciated Supervisor Gonzalez's comment about there's a bunch of people here who can't afford their trash. It is our trash, and the people are, and people particularly are who generate trash. We appreciate an opportunity to do something about that and to participate in it. So one of my suggestions is, one, create a resident task force that can interact with solid waste and provide a more balanced perspective on possible solutions, and to help educate other residents on what they can do. Some people actually don't know what composting is, but that's a valid solution to a lot of green waste. The other suggestion is better communication. And there are all sorts of avenues of communication between email, putting articles in the paper, on other forums, social media. There are ways that this can be communicated and more people can become effectively and productively involved. There should be a survey. Actually, there was, in a sense, a survey done for commercial customers that was mailed out last year, which states very clearly that the county does have the authority to grant exceptions. However, that is not going to be extended to residents. But a survey is really necessary because from all the comments here, it is obvious nobody really has a handle on what's in those trash cans or even if anything is in them. I know I go for a daily walk, and when I walk by trash cans, it is not unusual that they are not even half full. But that leads to the overhead of picking up, in some cases, and not even a trash can that has nothing in it, other than maybe a mask. And that just adds to the expense of all this. Another suggestion is to consider grandfathering those people who don't have and don't need this service who are already residents. If it needs to be made mandatory, then that's something that can be considered by someone who's moving into the area as one of the factors for them to consider if they really want to be there. Trash is mandatory in many areas, especially cities. It isn't necessary up in the mountain area, and it is reasonable to grandfather people in circumstances like this. Last suggestion.
Okay, your 3 minutes were up about a minute and a half ago, so.
Okay, one last suggestion.
Thank you.
In relation to a MADCO and having to buy trucks and carts, which will actually be millions of dollars, can it be considered to instruct them not to make any arrangements for purchasing those until this matter has been more thoroughly discussed and debated and other things?
That's the reason we did this.
Pardon?
That's the reason we did it, so they wouldn't have to.
So they have not placed orders for, good.
They're waiting for us to approve this, otherwise they can't order. Not going to stick their neck out.
Well, thank you. And thank you for the courage to push back on something that does need another perspective. And I'm sorry I went over.
All right, thank you.
My, my name is Larry Contreras. I live at 17503 Road 27, between Avenue 17 and where they're building the bridge. Before I continue, what district is that? What?
That sounds like District 2.
That's on Road 27, between Avenue 17 and where they're building the.
District 1. That's District 1.
District 1.
Me. Okay.
He's your man right there.
That one,
You know what? I like to correct that. We're all your men and women.
Yeah, but I have never known what district I belong to.
Okay, and women. I just,
Do
yeah,
I belong
mentioned
to-
that.
Yes,
We're-
do I belong to District 2 or 3 or what?
One.
One, okay. First
Best
of all,
district in Madera County.
okay. First of all, we don't need or want the service. My wife and I live alone, and we've been living there since 1978. About 10 years ago or so, we purchased a trailer, a dump trailer, and we put all our trash there, and then when it comes, I take it in my one-ton pickup to the dump it, bring it back. My wife is almost, she'll be 80 pretty soon, and she won't be able to walk to the road to put on the cans. And maybe if I have to, I would. On recycling, we recycle our own stuff. I take the batteries, where they paperboard, the cans, glass, and everything. So we do our own recycling. We had 5 acres, of which 1 acre was taken away by the railroad for them to build there. So now we're down to a little 4+ acres. So I cut the limbs, I put them in my trailer. It's easier for me. I'm not making excuses. I'm just saying the truth. Sometimes maybe other people like me hurt from the back, but have to be moving stuff. And let's see, put it in my notes here. Yeah, that's about it. I hope the governing agency can reconsider this and act upon it, okay? I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eric.
My name's Tony Tucker. I'm from District 5. I live on Jennifer Lane in Coarsegold. I am here because, and I want to thank you all for making this real easy, because I feel like to a large degree I'm preaching to the choir. So good luck with the RCRC thing. One size fits all was I think those were the first words out of my mouth when I read that letter. That can't work. So like everybody else said, I'm saying that. I have a few other things. I have been in contact with solid waste, and they have talked about, because this thing is not a done deal, that we're exempted yet. It may not happen, so we may be meeting here again. So I'd like to suggest you do consider the non-mandatory option, even though the economics, as indicated in the paper, are favor not punishing, assessing everyone. I also think that this really is a gross overreach for several items that did not come up yet, I don't think. And that has to do with both the penalties involved and for the mechanism of protest. I've been in California quite a while. I like to think I keep up with things. But this sure appears to me that if I don't pay this bill because I don't believe it's right and I don't use the service, it's not right for the tax collector to come and take my property away because I don't pay those fees. Once that happens, that's a tax. That's a tax that hasn't been voted on by the people. In fact, it's been voted on by politicians only at being a Senate bill. You've got a real problem with that, because I really believe that this should be run as a democracy, this United States of America. The other thing I've never heard of before is this protest by majority letter writing. I have never heard of that in terms of in order to launch a successful protest. Where did that come up? Where was that created or come
That's
from?
Prop 218, and that's what.
The new bill
Again, the
10 years
legislature-
ago.
That was Proposition 218?
Yeah.
Put that into law. Okay, there you go. I learned something. Anyway, I am delighted that we are of one mind on this, that this is not a good thing for the rural county that we are. And I wish you every bit of success in your endeavors. And let us know, let the people know too, if there are things we can do. We'd be happy to help.
Write that letter.
Buenos días, señores.
Good afternoon, supervisors.
Mi inglés no es bueno, pero he entendido todo lo que han dicho estos señores y estoy de acuerdo.
My English is not so well, but I do understand half of everything that you guys stated today.
Name?
Mi nombre es Elisa Sánchez y vivo en Madera Acres.
My name is Elisa Sanchez, and I live in Madera Acres.
Y también vivo en San Francisco. En Madera Acres vengo una vez al mes y pienso
I also live in San Francisco, and I come to Madera Acres once a month.
Pienso que no es justo pagar una cuota de servicio cuando no la uso y cuando vengo yo me llevo mi pequeña basura que me tardo un día y medio en estar aquí, me la llevo a mi casa en San Francisco. No quiero pagar, pienso que no debo pagar y no es justo.
I don't believe it's fair that I have to pay a quote that I do not use, and every time that I do come, I take my own trash and I take it back to San Francisco.
Eso es todo, señores. Muchas gracias por atendernos y espero que tengan en conciencia lo que nos pasa a nosotros. Gracias.
That is all, and thank you for...
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Pamela Francher, and I live at 13791 Road 29 here in Madera, right down the road from Cesar Chavez. And I am here also in protest of this because I own almost 5 acres, which has 3 homes on it. We do have a 1-yard dumpster, so I don't think it's fair because we do recycle and compost a lot that I would be charged for 3 additional fees because I do have 3 homes that I wouldn't use. My neighbor also, who couldn't be here today, doesn't use any trash service. He does his own recycling. The majority of us in our area have animals that we feed our yard waste and stuff to. We do chip our own branches and things like that. So I have an issue with being charged a fee that could amount to an extra $120 a month or more for just my family, which I don't think it's fair. And then if we don't pay the fee, if we refuse it, we might be levied a penalty on our property, which then could result in what? Extra penalties? And my property tax as it is, because of all the school bonds and everything else, is an extra $100 plus a year to begin with. So I really feel that this would be an extra stress on people that have a fixed income also, that should not be having to worry about this issue, especially in times of COVID that we're all going through, maybe having to worry about an extra income being put out per month that they can't afford. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Robert Jovino, and I'm at 51322 Sky Acres Circle. Retired here in 2016, having grown up in the valley. I think I learned a long time ago things aren't fair. And I was really glad to hear the board's position about how unfair this is to the residents of Madera. I do have one question. Does the County of Madera have the authority to set up a commission, a group that could go to individual properties that are asking for a waiver and grant the waiver based on their circumstance? Do you guys have that authority to do that? Okay.
No, he says no.
So you are mandated by the state.
Right.
So even though some of these people have shared really situations that should be waivers, you can't grant that. Okay.
Not as SB 1383 sits today.
Right. Hoping they're going to change.
Yeah. Makes perfect sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, no. Hey, common sense, buddy.
Right. the one size fits all. I would like to suggest that we all be treated equally, but in order to do that, you have to treat us differently. And in order to treat us differently, things need to be just and fair. I think we all agree that we have a state that's somewhat running amok, spending our money on things that if we had a chance to vote, we would say no, but they don't seem to do that. I was looking through a number of the original documents, and I noticed that there's a lot of wording that says may, not have to. It's not a mandate. It's not must. And I would just encourage you to look at those things that give you leeway as you're trying to fight this. I would also like to say that without your help, all of us that have stood up here and said the things we've said, it's not going to go anywhere. The buck stops with you guys. And I think all of us here would stand up and give you a standing ovation for fighting on our behalf and trying to make this thing happen. The energy that it takes is enormous, and I want to applaud you for being willing to take this on. We're all really depending on you to do what you can to make this right and to have your voices heard on our behalf. So I just think that all of us want to say to you, thank you for being willing to do this. It was very, I really enjoyed hearing what your stand was, and many of us came here loaded for bear, and we were able to put our guns away and say, okay, we don't need to be firing at the people that are rooting for us. So thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, Ashley Smith, Imadco Disposal. I just thought I'd come up here, and I just wanted to let everyone know from the public that to reiterate what the supervisors have said. A lot of companies and a lot of people have been put in a tough position with this. Imadco's been collecting trash and recycling up there for many years, and we're contracted and we're obligated to do what the county requires us to do. So the county's required to put this into play. Looks like we've had a protest to the point of we acknowledge that this was something that wasn't wanted. The supervisors understand that. I think they've done a great job handling this today. This has brought out the best and the worst from the mountain community. What I like about living in the mountains is people rally together. We've got a great sense of community up there, which is the good of what this has brought out. And it looks like we're going to have the result that a lot of people, the majority of people, looks like want up there. What I would like to let people know is when people do call Imadco or they call the county, it's not us. Some of the abuse that we've got over the last several months has been horrific. So to just remember that and tell your friends when you call, it's not something that we're trying to impose on you. We're just a business that is trying to conduct our business. So whatever we're required to do, we have to pass that on. So Teresa, Peyton, Amanda at our office, I think I'm a little emotional with this because some of the calls were horrific. So I think they've conducted themselves as well as anyone could for the circumstances. I know Boom and Jared, John Carlton, the effort they've put in over the last month. When they're doing the Zoom meetings and trying to get the information out, they're trying to help educate you guys to make a decision. They're not trying to sway you either way. Everyone's just trying to do the job that they're required to do. So even to the extent of Cal Recycle, I mean, they've been on the calls, they've been trying to assist. They're more people that are just basically being instructed from the Assembly bill from Sacramento. So like Tom Wheeler says, this goes all the way up to where I think you guys probably want to look at notifying your assemblyman and letting them know what you think. I think that's the smart play. This isn't anything the supervisors have tried to do at any point. And then one more thing, let me get a little plug out here. We are doing an organic outreach event on Friday, first week of June. I have a master gardener there. that is willing to show anyone that wants to learn how to compost properly what to do. So we will be there 12 till 2 o'clock out the front of our office on Friday, if anyone's interested.
Thank you. Very good, thank you. Okay, we have at this time at least 3 people on WebEx who would like to make a public comment, and the first one is Diane Reimer.
Good.
Diane, unmute yourself, please.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
Yes.
Oh, good. Okay. It's all been said, but it sounds like we need some big guns, and that is the ADA compliance. Anything that this trash business is going to pull forth is going to be non-compliant, and that's a legal issue. And it is truly illegal to make, well, picture this, you know, a 79-year-old schlepping 3 big containers out to the road once a week. It's called inaccessibility, and that's illegal according to ADA. And of course, you know, when Red Rock and whoever else picks up our compost, they're stealing because we use it for weed control and gardening and so forth like that. So we need to stop yammering now, since we've been doing it for all morning long and doing some things that work. So thank you for your time.
All right, very good, thank you. Next up, we have Sue.
Hi, my name is Sue O'Connor. I'm in Oakhurst, California, District 5. And I just want to state that I really appreciate the work that our Public Works Department, Solid Waste Department, Jared Carter and his staff have put into this. And I agree with most everybody that's spoken. I believe there's still more work to do in crafting a feasible plan to address SB 1383. I'm asking that you withdraw the item from the agenda, join with the RCRC in pushing back against the so-called mandate by Cal Recycle. There is consensus amongst most speakers, including myself, that whatever solution is arrived at, it should not include mandatory service. In addition, there should not be an added expense of a county admin fee for billing. That just adds to the total cost to us, the end user. I support the motion to withdraw this item and to revisit the solutions needed for compliance for SB 1383. I also want to support AMADCO and applaud Ashley for doing his best to educate his customer base. I personally had a very good conversation with Ashley, and I'm sorry to hear that his staff or any county staff have gotten any abusive calls. We know that you guys are not the enemy, and we appreciate the work that you've put into this. And I'm a native Californian. I'm all about recycling. I'm all about composting. And so I'm all about, let's get some, you know, I'm all about reducing waste, but we need to be included in the conversation. So thank you very much. Thank you, Tom Wheeler. I appreciate you making the motion to withdraw this. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then our next caller is Teresa Wilson.
Thank you, supervisors. Thank you so much. It was so encouraging to hear your support of your constituents today. Thank you, Supervisor Wheeler, for making that motion. The one thing that has not been addressed here, and it's a big picture, as most of you know, I'm in real estate, have been for 25 years. California is facing an affordable housing issue. Part of what you talked about at the beginning of your meeting had to do with rental assistance. We all know that costs get passed down to the consumer, and if that consumer is a tenant, that affects the affordable housing issue even further. As a 25-year agent up here in Eastern Madera County, some of the things that we face are the affordability of folks when it comes to insurance and utilities. We cannot continue to increase the cost of owning a home or renting a home with mandates that come down by the state. So I encourage you all to also consider that when you're writing your letters. Affordable housing seems to be something that California pretends, maybe that's not the right word, but seems to be concerned with. And this does affect affordable housing. Again, I want to say thank you so much. As the one gentleman said, we came loaded for bear and we can put our guns away. So, and we want to work together as a community, if there's something that we can do here locally to help assist you, again, writing to our legislators, I think is important. And again, thank you. That's all I have.
Very good. Thank you, Teresa. And next we have Ray.
My name's Ray Beauchamp. One of the things that we live actually in, we live off Walu and Opa in Ahwahnee, actually on a 20-acre ranch. And we've been doing our own composting. And actually, we have horses, so make a long story short, we actually have been very environmentally friendly. And one of the things that I just don't understand is I can understand being, if I had a smaller piece of property being put into this, into the group, if you will, of people who need a compost area. But quite honestly, we've been, if you saw the property, you'd understand that we've really been not only fire safe, in fact, we've been commended on our fire safety, but also from an environmental point of view, I think we've really pushed the envelope quite strong in terms of making sure that we recycle and do our part. One of the questions I guess I have is, have you looked at the potential of utilizing people with larger areas and perhaps even doing community composting as well for some of us that have larger areas that would be willing to help?
You know, there's all options on the table. I'll tell you what, we're taking testimony right now, and so the fact that we don't answer that question doesn't mean that we're not going to be looking at that at some time, but we appreciate the testimony and are taking notes.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
All right. Well, very good. Ray, is that all?
For me, and like I said, if you at some point do want to do it from a community point of view, I'd be happy to be one of the people that gets involved in perhaps a pilot project.
Well, very good. Thanks so much, and we appreciate that, and we'll definitely take your information so we can reach out to you. So thank you. Is there anybody else? Okay, nobody else on the line, and looks like we have Mr.
Yes,
Trieber.
Mark Reed is on the line.
Oh, okay.
Yes, my name is Mark Reed. I'm actually a resident of Oakhurst on Bonneview. I'm speaking on behalf of both my daughters as well, Jessica Reed and Tanya Reed, who live on Pierce Drive and also on Golden Ball Drive. I too want to commend the board's actions on seen and unseen in the battles of the state's mandate, unfunded mandate on the rural areas, and also commend RCRC along with the MADCO efforts in all of this unfunded mandates being pushed on us by the state of California. I second all of the comments that have been made through this entire hearing, and I support fully and request all 5 county supervisors to support the motion on the floor and vote yes to postpone it. Thank you very much.
Okay, very good. Not sure if there's anybody else in WebEx land. Sometimes people just emerge, but it doesn't sound like it at this time. So, Mr. Trieber, then we have a couple of supervisors wishing to make comments. So, Matt.
Thank you, Chairman. I don't really have anything at this point. I was just here for any questions you may have on the motion on the floor.
Okay, Supervisor Frazier.
Yeah, mine were quick. Teresa, actually, I appreciated your affordable housing. I had wrote down when the gentleman came up and said about his 3 rental properties at 1,600. That adds another just the 1383 portion, $50 to somebody's rent, in which is the difference between affordable housing and not affordable housing in a lot of cases. And I know affordable housing is such a big push in Sacramento, and so these things need to be brought up and shown how they affect that too. Sometimes they fly in the face of each other. So I appreciate you bringing that up. I had it down here. Then the other thing I had just had was in terms of the like the form letter in response to if we sent it out to everybody, it cost tens of thousands of dollars to send out those. We may figure out some other way to do it, maybe if it comes in the bill, but people that aren't getting the bill wouldn't see that. So, but it is important to make your voice heard. And, as your supervisors, we're fighting with this, but in Sacramento, it's not like our power does not come from our title. Our power comes from representing you. Our power is derived from the people. And so that's the only way that we have any leverage in California at Sacramento is because of all of you and your collective voice and us being able to be that voice. So thank you all for coming out and being a part of this public process.
Thank you. And Supervisor Wheeler.
Yeah, I wanted to thank everybody for coming again. A few ideas came up. I thought that was great. We do try to advertise everything we can. We haven't got no local papers anymore, hardly, especially up in the eastern Madera County. I don't know how many of you subscribe to Fresno V. I do, but I don't have very much on Madera County, hardly. And like Brett said, it costs really thousands of dollars. I don't know, maybe you were going to comment on that.
Yeah, it would have to be digital, probably like on our website that you can pull off.
We have all this stuff on our website. We put it on there all the time. I put it on Facebook. I had a town hall on that, like I said. Bobby and I advertised it for over 2-3 weeks on Facebook and stuff. I don't know how else to get a hold of you. I can't afford to mail every one of my people in my district on that to say, hey, I'm having this town hall. There was a lot of people there, but still, that was on Zoom. It's a lot more on Zoom than there is in person. So we have one every once a month. I have one this Thursday night. So you guys, you want to see what's going on, we're going to have a lot of updates on stuff, and this will probably be one of the items to say that what we've done today. So I'm glad that the board, we haven't voted yet. The public hearing is closed now, I think.
Call for the vote.
We had a motion before.
There never was a public hearing. This was just public comment.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, perfect.
Okay. If there's no other comments, we do have a motion and a second on the floor. I'll ask for a roll call vote.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Gonzalez?
Yes.
Chairman Poitras?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Okay, very good.
I move the same action on 7B.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Almost afraid to ask, any public comment? Thank you for your comments, by the way.
Yeah.
With that, I see no public comments. Roll call vote.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Gonzalez?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Chairman Poitras?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Very good. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to state one thing on our letter in support of SB 619. We will get that out. We'll put it on the solid waste website. We'll put it out there so folks can grab that. And we'll work with the PIT team to get it out there on social media as well.
Okay, very good. With that, we will recess our Board of Supervisors meeting until 1:10, exactly 1 hour. So 1:10, you got it?
I think Johnny Dogs is outside.
1:15.
No. He set his own time. Yeah, exactly. He can do that. He needs to.
Are we good? We're ready.
Okay, very good. Well, welcome back, everybody. We'll continue our Board of Supervisors meeting for June 1st, 2021. And the first item is item 6A.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Jamie Bax with Community and Economic Development. Back in March, we received your direction to move forward with an ordinance update to Chapter 9 regarding discharge of firearms in the San Joaquin River. So we did actually have a planning commission meeting and got some good input from them as well. So there were some revised changes to Chapter 9, which identifies the high water mark as the limit for discharge of firearms. And above that line would basically need the property owner's permission to do any hunting. So this is the first reading, and we're asking that you waive the first reading and set the second reading for next Tuesday, June 8th. And I'm available for any questions.
Oh, yeah. Okay, very good. Are there any questions of Jamie regarding this ordinance? Seeing none, are there any members of the public who wish to make a comment? Seeing none, I'll accept a motion for action.
Move that we waive the first reading and set the second reading for June 8th, 2021.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Gonzalez?
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Chairman Poitras?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much. Item 6B, this is consideration of approval to submit a letter of interest for the TIFIA, or I know there's different pronunciations, for funding of the current state Route 41 Expressway project.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Matt Trieber here, Chief of Development Services. Jared Carter, Deputy Director of Public Works, is also here. So, yes, this is actually a pretty exciting item for us on the Public Works side. In working with our federal and state partners, we have reached out to the Build America Bureau, which is responsible for the TIFIA, or Transportation Infrastructure Financing and Innovation Act of 1998, and responsible for administering that TIFIA loan, which would provide for a maximum, in certain instances, of 49% of the total project funding costs in the ways of low interest loans paid back over 30, 35 years. So we are targeting the State Route 41 project for this. We've had some initial meetings and discussions with the Build America Bureau, and so we wanted to get this to the board to get your authorization and just inform the public and everything about us moving forward through this TIFIA loan process, which is anywhere from a 12 to 14-month process from really this date now in order to get that. So again, we're hopeful we're successful. It is a very complex underwriting process that they do to make sure that the money's paid back. Right now, it's a 1% to 2% interest rate paid back over 30 to 35 years on the money. So pretty good value there for the money. So I'm available for any questions.
Very good. Thank you. Supervisor Frazier.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank staff for moving this forward, and also Congressman Costa for putting us in touch with Build America, and MCTC staff for being on there. And I think this is going to be a good catalyst to getting this done. So I sure hope that we get this through and I think it'll be something that'll be good for us moving forward in a growing county for many, many different projects, not just this one, but I think this will be a good, not pilot program, but start for it. So thank you to staff, and I'll make the motion for approval, but I see there's other.
Supervisor Wheeler.
Yeah, thank you. This is really important, you know, not only for down here, but for us up there, you know, since we have the largest amount of people coming to Yosemite to 41 through the south gate. And I think that when we do this, petition for this, put it in that letter, how important it is for our visitors that are coming through, not only just for our people that's, you know, from United States, California, or Fresno, the foreigners that come in to go to Yosemite. And, you know, we need to have that road designated as a high impact, what's the word they use for it?
I believe it's a high-focused impact transportation roadway.
Right. Whatever that is.
High
I know.
emphasis, sorry.
High emphasis, yeah.
High emphasis.
We got to get that going because that's right. Yeah, that's what I was looking for. You're sitting there. You know, we've tried that before. I think it's time that we do it now because if that helps also get those dollars.
Sure.
And I don't know why they want, but it's all that way. It's that identified that clear up to Fresno, but from Fresno north, it's not. It's the stupidest thing that ever goes because we don't get enough people killed on it.
Mm-hmm. Very
Ridiculous.
good. Any other comments from supervisors? Any public comment on this item? Seeing and hearing none, I'll bring it back for action. I think we have a motion, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Gonzalez?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Chairman Poitras?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 6C, this is the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. And this item 1 is a discussion and direction of staff on the recommended uses, as well as the consideration of approval of the receipt of unanticipated revenue in the amount of roughly $15 million.
Yes. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Joel Wigay from the County Administrative Office. Just a little overview of the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021, ARPA for short. It was signed into law March 11th of 2021, and it did two things. It continued helpful programs that were enacted during the CARES Act, and it also created new programs to help with the pandemic recovery. Some of the programs that were extended that you may have already heard about, not necessarily administered by the county, but administered by the federal state government. One of them is the Employee Retention Credit, which was extended through December 31st, 2021, which is a tax credit for businesses that retain their employees through the pandemic. Paid sick and family leave employer credit was extended through the end of September. And the Paycheck Protection Program was enhanced to include most nonprofit agencies to be eligible. Among the major programs that ARPA newly created, first would be the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, which was discussed in your board's agenda this morning. The Homeowner Assistance Fund, administered through HCD. Public Health Workforce Investment, which is administered by the Federal Department of Health and Human Services. And I believe we're still waiting on how that money is going to flow locally, given that it just got appropriated. And then the topic today, which is State and Local Fiscal Recovery Fund, SLFRF for short, administered by the United States Treasury, and is by far the biggest pot of the ARPA legislation. Next slide. The State and Local Fiscal Recovery Fund appropriated $350 billion, and it's invested in the fiscal recovery of states, counties, cities, and tribal governments. There is large flexibility in the use of these funds, so long as they comply with the final rules published by the United States Treasury. Counties and cities with population greater than 50,000 received a direct allocation from the state. Cities with less than 50,000, those funds that were meant for those cities and counties went straight to the state, and it's up to the state how to allocate it, but it is expected to be allocated on a per capita basis. The County of Madera's allocation is $30,558,925. We have received 50% of that as of this morning. The City of Madera will receive a direct federal allocation of $23,070,374. And the City of Chowchilla, being that it is under 50,000, is expected to receive their ARPA funds from the SLFRF through the state of California. We provide an estimate per capita what it might be, but just fair warning, it is really completely up to the state how they allocate that. As I mentioned before, the use of these funds are flexible so long as they're in compliance with the Treasury's final rule, which is currently in an interim final rule basis as of May 11th. But in general, the SLFRF are intended to be used for replacement of lost revenue, to support vital public services and help retain the workforce as we navigate through the economic impacts of the pandemic, support immediate economic stabilization for households and businesses, address systemic public health and economic challenges, and support the urgent response efforts to bring the pandemic under control. Apologies, I didn't. What we're here today is to seek broad direction and to recommend to you three broad buckets were to allocate or earmark the county's allocation of ARPA SLFRF funds. The first and the biggest recommended allocation or earmark, I make the distinction between earmark and commitment because the level of amount can be lower as will be discussed in the proposed budget next week. But we are recommending to earmark just over $21 million for budget stabilization to help the county achieve the elimination of its structural deficit. So we don't fall off a cliff in 1 year. We manage the reduction of the workforce through attrition and bring that structural deficit over 4 fiscal years back in line to operating revenues. The second recommended allocation pot is for Station 3 construction, which might be coming out of left field, but the reality with a budget structure, faced with a budget structural deficit and the need to spend capital funds for Station 3, and being that construction on a pay-go basis of shovel-ready projects are allowable, we are recommended to avoid incurring additional debt on the general fund, and the fire station would be a general fund debt if we had to build it. And we recommend to commit $6.7 million, which is the final design construction cost estimate as of today. The third pot recommended is to allocate just over $2.7 million for low-income household and impacted business stabilization programs within the unincorporated areas. And we make a distinction given that there is a per capita allocation that's split between the city and the county. And so we're recommending to allocate that money for programs to help with the economic impacts on businesses and households, similar to the small business assistance and the pandemic assistance that were recommended through the CARES Act. With that ends staff's presentation, and we're available for any questions.
Very good. Thank you. Supervisor Wheeler.
Yeah, so explain number one for me a little bit better for 21 million.
Yes, Supervisor. So
2/3 of it.
Right. So I don't know if you've had a chance to look at the CAO overview of the budget proposal, but there is on Roman numeral.
This one here?
Yes, sir. Right.
Hey, did you hear what I said this morning?
You haven't yet.
Somebody put it on my desk last week and nobody told me. I didn't even see it until this morning.
Our apologies for that, Supervisor. But
I mean, it'd be nice if somebody just text me, email, and say, hey, your budget's there.
we'll make sure we noted that.
No, nobody did.
That's
So
that's
did I
on
look
that's
at
on
it?
myself,
Did
Supervisor. So I
look
apologize
like
you didn't get to
looked
see
at
that.
it? Hell no.
But what's in the CAO overview is a 4-year outlook beyond 21-22 of where the revenues will be and where we think the current staffing levels will be, just based on CalPERS and health benefits and all of the other current costs of doing business, not including any potential salary adjustments as a result of labor negotiations. If we just take our current pay, increase it with CalPERS and health benefits, the net county costs will grow from $89.8 million to $95 million in fiscal year 24-25. With that,
89 now?
it's 89.8 in the proposed budget. The average salary savings, so we don't spend all of that because we have attrition, it takes time to fill vacancies. The average salary savings percentage the county has on the most recent fiscal year is 4.5%. And that is actually under extraordinary recruiting, not necessarily efforts, but recruiting, turnout, and retention of staff with the pandemic. There's not a lot of turnover, and being that we're competitive, we're able to fill our positions. So 4.5% is what our true, we try our best, is our salary savings. That basically, with that leaves a net of 87 million. We are only bringing in $77 million in discretionary revenues. So there's a 10 million structural deficit gap that we're projecting. In the proposed budget, what's mentioned there is to help bring that down is to work with departments to double that salary savings, which is basically a workforce reduction through attrition. So rather than unfunding positions, we will come up with the dollar target reduction that can be achieved through salary savings and work with departments to either achieve that through attrition by designating vacancies longer than they normally would, or come up with equivalent operational reductions that come up with the same dollar figure, with the goal of reducing that net county cost to anywhere between in the $84 million range. But even then, that will result in a $6.6 million gap. We are proposing to use part of the 21 to plug that, 6.6 million of the 21 to plug that for the proposed budget. And the discretionary revenues is projected currently to grow 2.5%.
That's
6.6 million.
6.6 million, okay.
Yes. So out of the 21, yes, essentially 6 million per year. It's declining as it's on the out years because the revenue is growing. What we're, as the revenue grows 2.5%, if we beat that projection, we will have to earmark some of that because once this money ends, we will still have a $5 million gap at the end of it, right? These are one-time money that's helping us achieve the workforce reduction through attrition over a period of time. That is the logic of the recommending an earmark of 21 million. We hope we use much less of it, but at the moment, at the proposed budget, 6.6 million is recommended, and even with that, we will have to grow our salary savings by 100%, which roughly equivalents to holding 30 more FTEs in general fund departments vacant, more than usual for the full year. So,
but what about where we were about 10 years ago when we had that $12 million deficit?
Right, but we don't have with access to some funds to help us.
We didn't have no access, right?
Right.
We did it by...
I think so. We do. So if you look back in 10-11, we did look back when the county faced a similar situation. What was available are one-time fund balances, which basically wiped it out, right? This plan preserves the fund balance through the 4 years, but we still need to reduce it, right? So it keeps that fund balance at 7 million, which is the minimum fund balance policy of the board. It uses the ARPA money to help stabilize it a bit while we make cuts to bring that discretionary revenue back in line with operating costs. But if we don't make enough cuts, it will dip into that fund balance in year 4. We're trying to avoid that. We're trying to use the ARPA funds, which part of the reason why it was created was a lot of cities and counties wrote letters to their congressmen saying, pandemic stunted our growth, and it really has. If not for the pandemic dip, our curve we'd be in the 80s in terms of discretionary. We're at 77, and our costs never took a break, right? So CalPERS keeps growing, health benefits keeps growing. So we are where we are in terms of the curve. Our revenues are recovering. It's rebounding at a steady rate. If it rallies, it helps buy this down. And in the CAO overview, the CAO is recommending to earmark anything above the 2.5% to buy down that structural deficit once ARPA ends, because we will need to bring it to balance by fiscal year 24-25. And I apologize, I'm talking about the budget But we had planned to go over a lot of these during the budget.
We will be, huh?
Yes. And we're bringing this forth before you today because I don't know if you recall in the consent item, there are 2 agreements that we recommended for the rental assistance for MCCJ and CAPMC. And these are the funds we're hoping to fund them out of. Right. A small pot of the 2.7 coming out of this. And since we had to tell them under the emergency orders to begin because evictions happen June 30th. We had to tell them ahead of time to start working with landlords and tenants to help prevent that from happening. But we needed to present this at least preliminary recommendation so that we can justify funding that contract out of ARPA funds.
On the, kind of explained it, just saying, does none of this money go for it says businesses, so none of this money is for our businesses out there besides number 3? None of this other money is?
In the proposal, no, yes, you are correct.
This money is for county and city services.
Well, the federal rules apply that it's flexible, so it would be up to the local, as long as it complies with the Treasury final rules. The local authority, being that your board, has the authority to allocate this in any way that meets the locality's needs, right? So in the staff's proposal today, if we were to implement a small business program similar to the CARES Act, we would carve that out of item 3.
2.7, you're not going to go very
2.7,
far.
right. Now,
what did we have last time?
3.8, but we included the cities in the 3.8.
Oh, it was?
Yeah, because the city is receiving their
own
hefty pot. If we were to do a small business program out of the county's funds, we would recommend it to be only in the unincorporated areas.
So the second one is that construction, I still can't believe that firehouse is $6.7 million. We've never spent that much on the firehouse, and it just, I don't understand. I just, the hell we got there? Taj Mahal? I mean,
I wouldn't.
I brought this up before because when I said 6 million is a bunch of bull, they said, oh, no, it won't be that much because we had to give you a number, so we get started. Now it's more than that 6 point, whatever it was then.
Well, you had a huge cost raise in materials. I mean, huge.
There is escalation.
I had a project that I got blown out on. Literally, the materials are up 400%.
Well, they're up, I know, about 35% by what is President B.
They're more than that. They're up.
I mean,
400.
housing costs were up.
Yeah, housing costs. Yeah, lumber's up 400%.
I believe, Supervisor, you're right. Some of the escalation that's factored into the current estimate is related to current market conditions. The other piece too is that these stations are designed to what the state calls essential services, which we have to comply with. There's certain standards. I don't know offhand, but but there are certain standards to building a fire station.
Had in the past.
I believe so.
Yeah, we're in a completely new age where building buildings is concerned. I'm glad we got what we've gotten done previous year because we can't afford it now. It's not going to happen anymore like this. It's ridiculous the things they're laying down.
Yeah, firehouse, $6 million.
Yeah, it's terrible.
7 actually. It's so close to it.
Yeah. The building price index usually goes up about 1% to 2% a month, and it went up, 12 to 15% just last month. It's only going to get worse.
And it is a capital project that could be eligible for ARPA given its shovel-ready status. So ARPA does not allow you to spend capital projects on a debt service basis, but it will allow it for pay-go construction. Wow. And this station can be done within the ARPA timelines. And again, I want to reiterate that staff is only recommending this because of the budget situation.
Yeah.
If we had to finance this, it would likely be in the $400,000 in the next 20 years, 15 to 20 years, depending on the terms and interest of debt service. And once we get it built, the county's on the hook to upping the FTE count for Station 3 to get it to 2.0 staffing, which would cost another $600,000 in the budget. So we're trying to come up with things that we can at least prevent any more escalation in the operating
Yeah,
costs.
it's always cheaper if you can pay cash as you go, so
You know,
I think it's the way to go, but wow, it's just, the times we live in are very, very different, and just got to beware.
Yeah, we had on the agenda, which we pulled, and we're going to do it, discuss after the things, but, we got 1,538 employees, which shocked me the other day. And we're worried about that. When this pandemic's over, hopefully by the end of the year, what will the reduction be on those, how many employees that we got there now? That's just part of that.
Supervisor, in the proposed budget, it reflects 1,524 proposed funded positions.
That's permanent, that's already.
Permanent funded
FTEs
positions.
That's already working here besides, and does that include those pandemic extra employees?
It does not include extra help. So if the 1,538 positions include extra help, this does not include the extra help. We don't identify them.
We're up to 1,524 employees.
Yeah, the current funded positions in the current year budget is 1,478. There's 46 and an increase. A majority of that is in subvented departments. The general fund departments that are having an increase are related to construction, so that would be your building. But those come with fees to fund it.
That's not subvented, how many people?
In
How many people that we have that's not subvented? I mean, that is subvented, either way.
Right,
You don't have that number? You can get it to me later.
It's yeah. We have that upstairs. It will be in our presentation next week because
Okay.
But just quick numbers.
Well, we're growing like mad. I had no idea we were growing that many employees. I knew we had a lot more, but geez, I can't believe that we've got this many, and then we have another proposal today to do this other ones. We got to put a halt to this. I mean, we're not lean and mean no more. I used to brag about that, but we're not that way now.
I will point out, Supervisor, that the increase in subventeds outpaced the general fund increase, and the increase in general fund departments are related to covering the new developments. So a lot of that is covering the Soroviejo River
We're
stuff.
also contracting a lot of that out.
Correct.
That's not part of these employees.
But they are part of these, though. Even though the developments pay those services, they are still general fund positions. We receive revenue for it.
So that group that we hire out of Fresno that does inspections for us, that's part of this group here too?
The contracts, no. But in the current budget, there are positions recommended for building and fire safety that will be counted positions. We anticipated these questions, and it is planned to be included in the presentation next week, walking through from the peak in 9-10 to the bottom in 10-11 and the growth since 10-11 to the proposed budget. So we'll be able to walk you through.
Could you get me before next week too, the numbers per year that our employees have increased for the last 5 years?
Number of positions?
It's in your packet.
Per year.
It's in your book.
here?
Supervisor.
It's in there,
Yeah.
yeah. In the book.
For the last 10 years, it's got it all by department number. I think our low was like 13 something.
1326.
1326, and then it's got by department increases. It's an excellent chart.
Good, that's what I'd love to see that.
And we'll provide more context on that in the presentation. We had to summarize it for the overview, but we do have the details to back this up. So
I'll look at it and see. That's all I got. Sheriff. Thank
Okay,
you.
very good. Supervisor Frazier.
I just wanted to kind of comment to the point of the in the $2.7 million for the business assistance. So in the earmark, are we able to have flexibility after once it's through? Like if we then saw there was a bigger need, I'm all for the business assistance, but we would have to get through the funds that we had through the CARES Act first. I think before we would want to do any more, right?
yes, Supervisor, we have actually issued all of that. So the county's CARES Act funds we received through the state, and at that time, even though the federal government extended the use of it, we were told that the state hasn't extended theirs until recently in the May revise. But at that time, we issued all of that out by December 31st.
Okay.
That we had to, right?
Yeah.
By their rules.
Right.
And we were having to go back to the same businesses and say, okay, instead of 5, do you want 10? So, I mean, it was out there, and we had to do quite a bit to get it out, is the point I'm trying to make.
Right. I think, Supervisor, if the general allocation is approved, I think the next recommended steps for us is to work with EDC, talk to supervisors, see what kind of program, might be applicable in the not post-pandemic, but in the recovering, pandemic recovery world in terms of, and it's not just businesses, right? We got to look at household and, small business assistance and especially in the rental assistance. So the logic with getting ahead of it is we don't want people to become homeless June 30th, right? So those are the things that we're keeping in mind as we recommend programs to use the 2.7 million.
This could help people or businesses pay for 1383.
Supervisor Rogers.
Yes, I wanted to make sure that our A87 is in line, that we're on top of that, the recuperation from subventids, et cetera. And so that's one area that got overlooked for a number of years. And let's stay on top of that, make sure
we are on top of the cost plan. In fact, I think in a phased-in basis where IT already moved into direct charging, which is really recovering their A87 costs in the year they provided service. HR is doing the same thing.
Yes, I noticed that, and that's excellent that we look for those opportunities where it's actually happening, that it needs to be paying its way.
Right, and I think it's better for subventids too because they get to see the service charges in the year. It doesn't stop the A87 process. There's still a true up, but the goal is to make that true up as close to zero as possible in out years. It is a hardship the first year you implement direct charging. So you're catching up for those 2 years and you're direct charging this year.
Yeah.
That's why we are implementing it in phases.
But it is realistic, and it needs to be, they need to be paying what they're doing, because there's always this mentality. I mean, there's sometimes this mentality, I shouldn't say always, but sometimes this mentality that, let's submit in money, so what? Well, we have a responsibility over that.
Right, and Supervisor, between the auditor's office, our office, and the departments, the central service and the subvented departments, the 87 cost recovery is going smoothly. That's reviewed every year, the cost allocation. And yes, we are paying attention because if they overspend, it does shift back to the county and then they can't deliver their services. So we are cognizant of that.
Exactly. And I know this is, we're on the budget, but this is part of the budget. And so those are questions that you're anticipating for next week, and you're just answering them ahead of time. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Varney.
I just wanted to respond to Supervisor Wheeler's question about what is a all hazards building or an essential services building. It comes from, I don't have the date of when the legislature passed that, but it begins at California Health and Safety Code section 16,001, and it talks about a bunch of things that you think you'd do for any building that you would build, and then it branches off from there and goes into a bunch of rules and regulations from the state architect. So that's probably where the bulk of that cost comes from. Yeah.
Okay, very good. Thank you. If there's no other questions from supervisors, I'll open it up to the public. Is there anybody in-house who would like to make a comment on this item? If not, let's go to the web. Is there anybody on the web who would like to make a comment?
Hello, Chairman Poitras. It's Tim Curley at Valley Children's Healthcare. Can you hear me?
Yes, sure can. Hi there.
Great. Well, it's good to see everybody, and thanks for the opportunity to provide comment on this. I'm Tim Curley, and I'm with Valley Children's Healthcare, and the address is 9300 Valley Children's Place in Madera. And before I actually comment on this specific item, I just want to take a second on behalf of Valley Children's to thank Madera County, beginning with all of you, with the Board of Supervisors, with respect to your leadership over these last 14 or 15 months in weathering this pandemic. You all stepped forward and provided the kind of decision making and leadership that this county needed in order to be as successful as we have been. I know it's been a long road. And I also want to thank your departments, because you've got a number of departments that really played a critical role. And I wanted to single out your public health department under the leadership of Sarah Boss and your public health officer, Dr. Paul, who from the very beginning were out in front doing what they needed to do to provide the kind of support our community needed to get through this. So I just wanted to acknowledge that and just say that it's been an honor to work with your team over the last 14, 15 months. In terms of this specific item, I just want to encourage you, as you look at using these dollars, and for instance, if you move forward with the recommendations in front of you right now, to look at the use of the dollars through the lens of how this pandemic has really exacerbated a number of issues that adversely impact kids and families. And you've probably heard of them, you've probably seen them in terms of talking to other organizations, other agencies, everything from increased prevalence of mental illness, increased prevalence of domestic violence, child abuse, obviously families who've lost income, lost jobs, lost homes, potentially inadequate access to food, and infrastructure issues, including broadband and roads that are really important for kids and families to access programs and services. So just, keep that lens open. And again, if you move forward with the recommendations in front of you, there'll probably be opportunities, particularly under that first bucket and maybe under that third bucket, to look at ways to make sure, you're really reinforcing those critical county departments, and you're really reinforcing those private businesses that support kids and families. So really appreciate the opportunity to provide comment, and thank you again for all your hard work and support.
Very good. Thank you, Tim. Are there any other comments? Hearing and seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board for action.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Gonzalez?
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Chairman Poitras?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Very good. Thank you. If my colleagues would indulge me, I've been requested by a principal from a local charter school to see if we could actually consider 8A now. Apparently, there is some extreme time sensitivity. I guess this item is being considered right now.
Very.
And yes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Gonzalez,
We
second.
we have a motion and a second. Yep. Yes.
I just want to say, I had a meeting with the superintendent of one of the schools last week, and I tell you, this is the most craziest bill I've ever seen in my life. So it will reduce their funding by 30%, and that's Tewaniki Academy, Sherman Thomas, MCSOS, Independent Academy, Mountain Home Center, and Glacier High Schools that this will really hit hard. So really important that we send that out and make it very strong. So thank you.
Very
I
good.
I appreciate that, Tom, too, because it seems that what they can't control, they want to kill.
Yeah, isn't that true?
That's
It's
it.
just-
And this provides educational choice to a lot of families who want a quality education for their kids.
They can't get it otherwise.
And can't do it otherwise. They can't afford a private school, and this works for a lot of families.
Yeah, it really does, and we were up there in one of the first schools in Madera County to even pass this, so.
All right.
We're talking about you.
Yeah, I think so. No, anyway, no, that's good. That's right. Tara Napier from Sherman Thomas Charter School. So
I just mentioned
Thank
you.
you for being here. Absolutely.
very good. Well, we have a motion and a second.
Supervisor
comment?
Frazier?
Oh, public comment. I'm sorry. No public comment. Okay.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Gonzalez?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Chairman Poitras?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Okay, and
Thank you.
very good, thank you, and I think they need my signature on that,
Best to Roger, too.
on that item, so, yeah. I told Tara to come on over here and make a big stink and all that sort of thing.
This opposition just passed by a hair.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
This is a good title they put on it, AB 1316, discriminates against disadvantaged public school students. I mean, that's about as good as you can say it right there.
Yeah,
Discrimination.
exactly.
So,
Exactly.
Just getting one more signature over here. All right, very good, thank you. Okay. Let's go ahead and move on to item 6D. This is consideration to approve the unit modification agreement for Peace Officer Management Association.
Good afternoon, Chairman, members of the board. Susan Carter reporting for HR. The item that's before you is actually pursuant to a request that was made from the Peace Officer Management Unit. So our Peace Officer Management Unit currently is made up of the undersheriff position, the sheriff's commander, sheriff's lieutenant, assistant DA, criminal investigator, and then assistant DA and the chief district attorney, criminal investigator. Sorry about that. So Undersheriff Majeski and Assistant DA Dupras had submitted a request to their bargaining unit representative where they wanted their positions to be excluded from the Peace Officer Management. And the bargaining unit representative reached out then to the county, and through an agreement that was made between the unit and the county, this is now before you, the agreement that was prepared. It is signed by all parties, so the county, the unit, and the two individuals in question that had brought up the subject have signed off on this agreement. And it is to exclude their positions from the Peace Officer Management for employee-employer relations.
Move
So
to
it's
approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. I'll open it up to the public. Are there any members of the public wishing to comment on this item?
Yes.
Yes, there you go.
I just wanted to take an opportunity to say this is another example of something that's very useful for my office and allows us to function better. As you know, Mr. Dupras, who you guys have had speak before you on numerous occasions, runs the office in my absence, and he and I divide the duties as equitably as we can, and he's absolutely essential. In fact, he's not here today because he's up at HR having a conversation with them that as a represented party, it would be very difficult for him to have. So the fact that he's able to get out of this union is a huge benefit to us. And I just wanted to point to it again as an example of something that under the previous HR I was told could not be done. And it was a huge stumbling block for us, and it left a lot of things on my plate that I could not share with even my assistant district attorney. So another opportunity to thank HR for the excellent work that they've done under our new staffing.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. Any other public comments? If not, we have a motion and a second. Roll call vote.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Excuse me,
No.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Gonzalez?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Chairman Poitras?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Thank you.
All right, very good. 6C, this is consideration to adopt resolution authorizing revenue services to repeal certain criminal justice fees as
Move to
required by
approve.
AB 1869.
Turn the button on.
I always do that.
This is an old item, right?
Chris Childers, Chief Probation Officer, and with me is Sharon Stampolesi, our Revenue Services Manager. Division of Probation Department, if you didn't know, but we do
all the revenue collection with the county for criminal justice fees before you as a request or an adoption to stop the collection of the AB 1869 fees a month early to allow our revenue services manager and her team to transition to be able to notify all the individuals. I think there's 30-some thousand accounts that we need to notify, and we can't do it in one day on June 30th. So we need some time to work with the courts and then also notify those we are collecting. In addition to notifying these folks, we also need to let them know that they still are obligated to pay restitution, which is first and foremost, and that they're not off the hook on that. So we need that time, and I'd ask the board to consider the adoption of that
30,000 a day seems reasonable. Not just-
I'll be back before the board to request an adoption of an amended ordinance to this as well. So.
Second to Supervisor Rogers' motion.
We have a motion, a second. Any comments or questions from my colleagues? Any comments or questions from the public?
Just another one of those things from the state again that, they just got their heads in their rear and they don't know how to get it out and think about what happens when we do this. I mean, I know you're good, but to do 30,000 of them in a day, well, I don't know.
Give it to the county, they'll figure it out.
Yeah, exactly.
It's actually what it's supposed to be, but then they give us rules and tie our hands where we can't figure it out, so.
Right. Roll call vote.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Gonzalez?
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Chairman Poitras?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now you just have to do 1,000 a day for a month.
Yeah. So moving on to item 6F, this is a quest for entering into some agreements with some community-based organizations for COVID vaccination assistance.
Hello, Sarah Boss, Public Health Director. I come before you, board members, Mr. Chair, reminding you that in September of last year, we brought to your board a contract with Central Valley Opportunity Center for education and outreach for COVID contact tracing, isolation and quarantine testing, and now vaccination. With the rollout of vaccination at the beginning of this year, there was an awareness that access supported by education and outreach would be
Sarah,
key to.
Can you take your mask off,
Sure.
please? It's mumbling and I can't
Sure
hear
thing.
out of this one, this is deaf, so.
Thank you. So with an awareness that access supported by education and outreach would be key to ensure that everyone is well informed and able to access a vaccine while we push towards, of course, the highest vaccination rate possible and move past COVID mitigation measures, opening up the community. We, to that end, needed to expand our outreach significantly through community-based organizations. And we did this with trusted agencies that we had been working with that are also trusted by the community in our vulnerable areas. This was reinforced by the expectation of the state to incorporate community-based organizations into our vaccine equity plan as required by our COVID-19 funding. In Madera County, we had built back in 2020 a COVID Ag Task Force that included the CBOs in Madera County that provide services in our health equity zip codes 610, 637, 638. Because we needed to vaccinate people very quickly and maximize the capacity of these CBOs, we wanted to spread the funding across multiple organizations, maximize the capacity of staffing that they had available. So we negotiated 6 contracts that are before you today. These contracts use the same construct as the contract that we put together for Central Valley Opportunity Center. It has an initial budget for a prescribed time frame, and then it gives the ability to extend the work up until December 31st of 2022 with a cap for each contract as we extend the time period as it's needed for the work. To not delay the work, these contracts are retroactive to the time in which we completed the negotiation of the scope of work and the budget, and then there was some significant delays as we processed it through county council. We did want to roll it out as quickly as possible so as not to delay opening up our community through vaccination. So I'm available for any questions you might have regarding these contracts.
Very good. Supervisor Gonzalez.
Thank you, Sarah. You have the contract with CVOC and then these additional 6 contracts. How do you measure the success, or what are the measurables to ensure that these programs are working and that how are you measuring that?
On top of so many contracts at the same time. So we actually have dedicated staff who are working with these community-based organizations on a weekly, if not daily basis. So there's regular meetings of the group as a whole, but then also in between outreach. So our staff schedules those vaccination clinics in collaboration with CBOs and other entities that are willing to host them, like school sites, housing authority complexes, lots of different areas. And as soon as we have a clinic that's scheduled, we identify specific community-based organizations among these who are able to get out to those locations, canvass the area prior to the clinic, get people registered ahead of time, answer any questions that they might have, and then increase the number of people participating at the clinic. So we know which vaccination clinic each CBO is supporting during the week and where their staff is deployed. So it's all the time, and then we can look at how successful they are in actually getting people to come to the clinic. So we have all of that data we track.
That's all for now.
Thank you. Supervisor Wheeler.
Yeah, so when you're saying this, will any of them go out to the farm workplaces and stuff?
Yes.
They will be.
Yes.
That's really important, I think. And the second thing how about the tribal communities?
So we are utilizing the CBOs as their capacity is available for all of our vaccination clinics, regardless of where they're located. So as we're working with the tribal community for vaccination clinics in that area, if there is need for that wraparound service, then we deploy that, yes.
You will.
Most of these are really focused on Spanish language in our equity census tract.
Well, it's
so the
really
contract
important
is
because
really.
I think that's where our biggest, concern is, and we got to really take care of that. And that is my most important concern. But the second one is my tribal communities up there. So,
If they need the support, we're happy to deploy resources. We're not as likely to utilize the community-based organizations in that area as much as staff, because the CBOs that we've contracted with are really targeting the ag community and those zip codes that are a different population. But we absolutely can do outreach with the tribal organization.
Have we reached out to them, the tribal?
We have reached out.
The two main ones in Madera County,
Yeah, we have reached out.
know
There isn't a ton of interest in scheduling more vaccination clinics right now. It's a really big sell. But yes, we have reached out.
Okay. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. If there's no other questions, are there any comments or questions from members of the public? Seeing none,
approve.
bring it back to staff for action. Here we go.
Oh, there.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Christina Beckstead, Executive Director at Madera County Farm Bureau. Although I want to begin by commending Sarah and her staff, specifically Aurelia and Jackie, for their efforts on this very difficult project that they have underway, I do come here today with a voice of frustration. So over the months, and from I think the beginning, we have been included, the Farm Bureau has been included in the Ag Task Force and have participated on a regular basis. In fact, I have a staff member that attends on a weekly basis all of the calls that happen. It came to my attention a couple months ago that there was a lot of duplicative efforts going on, and that there wasn't maybe necessarily a measure of what was getting accomplished. And we had, and this came after efforts the Farm Bureau had done on our own. We are very supportive of this. We've been at all of the meetings and said, how can we help? While not being a recipient of any of the funds, nor do we ask to be a recipient. But my board would probably tell you today, where do I send my bill? But as I stand here today, I voice some frustration because you're about to award $1.3 million roughly in contracts today, and you've already awarded a significant amount of money back in September, October of last year. And I will tell you that other than being contacted by the county staff directly, none of the CBOs have contacted Farm Bureau and tried to engage with us after repeated requests of how can we help, as well as, hey, give us this and we will get it to our members and get it dispersed or disseminated and whatever that might be. And I thank the staff, Aurelie and Jackie, for acknowledging my comments and my feedback on the calls and in attempting to adapt some of these measures of measurement that I have suggested. Because all I've come to and have raised the issues, and I know Sarah is well aware of the issues that I've raised with staff, is, I come to this from a place of transparency. So from the ag side of it, we are asked by some of these groups on a regular basis to be transparent about who we've communicated with, how many people we've communicated with, what we've done, right? And now I've turned around and said, I want you to give me transparency. And we haven't been able to get that. As staff has asked on some of the calls for updates on where things are, what the plan is for the week, where are they going, there's been maybe one or two that'll give an update, and then it's crickets when it comes from the rest. So then when I ask about this and suggest that there be some method of being able to report this on, a live basis within the group, right, within the partners and the stakeholders, to have a living, working document, and I'm told that maybe it's because my staff doesn't report to me on what they're doing, although I just sat and listened to crickets on the phone. It's very disappointing to hear that. So I commend this board for trying to be fiscally responsible. I mean, there's been a lot of discussion today on budgets and whatnot. I would suggest that this board demand more from these groups, because you're getting ready to award a lot of money for what purpose at this point? I mean, I don't disagree that COVID is still very important. It is important, and we recognize that, and moving forward it's important. But I think from the update that I heard on the news yesterday, 50% of California has been vaccinated. We are on the declining side of this vaccination and the education efforts. And these are contracts up to a certain amount. And I'd like to know in the last 3 months what's been accomplished by some of these agencies, because in the 2 weeks that we assisted a local businessman that put on several clinics at his own expense at no cost to the county, we were able to fill those vaccine clinics. And when it was turned around and he was asked to host another one on behalf of the county, and 6 or 8 agencies couldn't fill those seats, and he canceled it on the day of the event. I mean, that's a little discouraging and a little disheartening. And I just suggest that, obviously I recognize that these need to be moved forward with, but as you move forward, ask those questions. And thank you, Supervisor Gonzalez, for asking that question today, because if these agencies are expecting everyone else to be held to a higher regard in whatever other instance is going on, I would demand the same from them. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Sarah, do you have perhaps a response?
Certainly. So I did receive feedback with regards to the engagement of the community-based organizations on those calls from staff. And directed the staff approximately 2 weeks ago to take a more proactive and direct route with the community-based organizations. The approach of staff was to ask the community-based organizations to come up with where they were going to go, where they were going to canvass. And there was a bit of managed chaos. So I directed staff instead to be more directive and less asking the CBOs to come up with it, instead prescribing to them, we need a CBO who's going to be in this area and canvassing during these times, who's going to do it, and require that one of them step forward, right? That they were going to fill time slots of what was required and get it scheduled. So we are hopeful that that kind of difference in terms of how our relationship with these community-based organizations is going to do a different yield. I just want to acknowledge the work of the Farm Bureau and their engagement in working alongside Department of Public Health and our Ag Task Force. Also want to recognize James Maxwell of Agriland, who was hosting those clinics. And again, those clinics were large, very successful. And I know that Jim did a lot of work to engage business owners to actually have their staff come. And he has a unique and great relationship with other business owners to really kind of garner and bring people in His clinics began to wane over time, and really what happened with vaccination is that it was really, really steady and strong, with people beating down the doors for a vaccine. And then it just dropped within like a week or two period of time. And the clinic that we were planning out at Agroland was right after that drop. So I think there's a couple different things at play. I fully acknowledge that there were the truth of what Christina has shared today, and that we are proactively addressing that with regards to expectations with the CBOs. They are, in the community that we serve, very trusted. So it's important that we maintain these relationships and have the community-based organizations working on our behalf. I don't know exactly why they haven't been as active on calls and forthcoming, but we are definitely looking to the data with regards to their output.
Okay, very good. Supervisor Rogers.
Yeah, I'm going to use an old phrase that Ronald Reagan used even, and that is trust but verify. Maybe, they might be trusted in the community, but we're talking about a lot of money here, and we have the responsibility to oversee that money and make sure that it's doing what it was supposed to do. And the only way to do that is to trust but verify. We don't trust anybody completely. No one. I mean, we don't trust our own people in our operations. We have checks and balances that create the lack of opportunity to do something wrong, and we don't want that. Not saying that anybody's doing anything wrong, but it's our responsibility to make sure that that doesn't happen. It doesn't happen on our watch, and if we relax in anything, it falls on us. And so we have to be vigilant. We have to require certain things of even CBOs and nonprofits and whoever else we're working with, no matter what initials are above the door, no matter who's behind the desk. That's the way it is. Thank you.
Supervisor Frazier.
Yeah, kind of to Supervisor Gonzalez's point, you can't control what you can't measure. And so, what is the number of population that we're like, what is a win? What is perceived as that this was a good use of funds? Getting it out there, so how many, what is the population that these efforts is going towards? And then of that, how many do we want to see vaccinated? Mm-hmm. I know 100%, but what is defined as a win? I think if we can define that, then it, these contracts are up to, but they should be up to when you hit these thresholds of this many people actually being vaccinated through your outreach efforts. So, do we have a number of how many people that we're going to be canvassing with these 6 organizations? And then what would you define as a success?
So we do it based on kind of a geographic area around a vaccination clinic. And so they are basically assigned to canvass that area and that neighborhood around the location in which we're vaccinating. The contract is set up for a certain number of pre-registrations. That was something that was established early on when pre-registration was really a thing, and now it's quickly adjusted. Like I said, it kind of dropped off a cliff in terms of number of people participating. And so that measure is going to have to be adjusted in the next scope of work. So that's part of why we did a construct of the contract the way that we did, was that for this period of time, this is the way it was going to be measured. And now we're looking at, it's a new season of a different way of measuring it. Did they instead completely fulfill the assignment that was given to them? How many people did they get out to? Not necessarily registration. So that's a different tracking mechanism we're just developing.
Participant, not pre-reg. Because at one point, anybody who was pre-registered showed up.
Right.
And so now it's, we measure it as participant, someone who actually gets vaccinated, and then.
That's a tricky measure because they may work really, really hard and talk to lots and lots of people, but not very many people are showing up. And that's not necessarily because the CBO didn't do a good job. It's because the state is requiring that we do everything we possibly can to talk to as many people as possible, and we still may not get a lot of people that show up. It's still that good faith effort that's required by our funding.
But to get to the next level of funding, to get up to certain amounts, there should be something tied to performance, regardless of whether or not the work was done. I mean, it's like in the private sector, say, a realtor who puts a lot of money into marketing a house and never gets a bite on it. They don't get paid at the end. That they have to put some of it out. So I just think there just needs to be,
Right.
Yeah.
How successful are they in making the sale? And I hear you. So the other reason that we set these contracts up this way is that we could look at performance. And so if 3 of the 6 CBOs are the ones that are converting to a sale and people are actually showing up, then we can continue with the funding of those as opposed to continuing with the funding of the others. So it gives us that discretion to look at the measures, see who's performing, and if a CBO is truly not performing, then we do not have to continue. We can go ahead and terminate the contract.
And so are we looking at a population of 20,000, like total for all these, 50,000?
No, it's pretty close to 70% of the population for Madera County. So it's zip codes 610, 638, and 637. Those are the ones that are targeted as the health equity zip codes in our county.
And some of them have already been vaccinated, right? So
Yes.
Do we know about what percentage of that?
Well, countywide, our vaccination rate is 45%. For people with at least 1 dose, fully vaccinated is 36% of those eligible. So that's not full population, just age 12 and up. So at least 1 dose, we have 60,000 people. There's a significant number that are still yet to be vaccinated in these 3 zip codes.
Area-wide?
I'm sorry?
More down here,
So-
more up there?
So just using the number, so if this is 70% of our population, I'm just using 160,000 as the population, then we would say that this would be 36% would probably be most likely of this group?
No.
So we're talking.
Of how many have been fully vaccinated? 36% have been fully vaccinated so far.
With 1 dose, we've got about, this would be a targeted area of about 50,000 people that we're looking to canvass.
Still reaching out to, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, very good. Supervisor Rogers.
Boy, something came to my attention at kind of by accident. Somebody texted me from a sheriff's department that they had a certain number of slots open for vaccination, and they had the vaccine available, but they couldn't get people to fill those slots, and that vaccine goes to waste. So what comes to mind here in this whole picture to me is, how do we keep from wasting what we do have, and with what seems to be somewhat ineffective outreach on part of some of them. These CBOs are supposed to be community-based and have a reach that we don't have. But apparently some of them don't have the reach they thought they had or something. And so I'm concerned about the efficiencies that are going on in this.
Mm-hmm. So it has shifted with regards to handling of vaccination and the requirements of the CDC. The direction is now, if you have 1 person who comes for a vaccine and you don't have the other 8 people, because it's 9 vaccines per vial for 1 type, for example, the direction is puncture the vial, waste 8 and give the 1. So at this point, we have lots of vaccine. It's not the problem that we had in the past.
Right.
And we've told them, make vials with fewer number of vaccines in them, but I think that it's a production issue. It's cheaper for them to manufacture 9 per vial. They're going to continue to do that, and it's cheaper to just waste 8 vaccines. So that's really not the issue at this point. It's really more the dollars being spent to hold the vaccination clinics, plan them, all of those kinds of things.
Right.
And I've been watching the efficiencies with a lot of concerns. The state is coming to us, applying a lot of pressure that we have to maintain the same capacity. We have to have more and more clinics, and we're putting a lot of staff, a lot of resources out there to be able to do that. And it's not that we don't want to. It's just, it is really expensive, and we have the money. They've given us the money, and they've told us, spend the money in these ways. We're making it very, very accessible.
You're just not getting the response.
We're just not getting the response, but it is the expectation of the state that we continue to do all of the work to bring in as many as we possibly can.
So then it can be laid in the lap of the state for sure then. And in regards to Jim Maxwell, I just want to say to him and his crew, thank you, thank you, thank you. He just continues to be an amazing asset to this community, his whole organization, AgriLand. I know I got at least, I've probably gotten 10 emails from them in regard to vaccine or more. And just each time I'm thinking, wow, he puts in the effort to reach out. He made a phone call, he called me, said, if you have anybody, he's personally doing this. This isn't something that he has some secretary or somebody else handling for him. He is personally making phone calls, personally sending emails. The man just amazes me, frankly. I'm just very impressed with who he is. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Supervisor Wheeler.
Yeah, thank you. Sarah, what, 45% with 1 shot, 36 fully vaccinated. What's the chance of us hitting that mark on June 15th that the governor says he might open up a bunch of stuff?
So June 15th is not dependent on the percent vaccinated. The criteria that he had was low hospitalization rates and the vaccine was readily available to all who are eligible to get it. So those we meet.
We still 0 at the hospital?
We had at 1.0 at both Valley Children's and Madera Community. That was a happy day. We now have, I believe, 1 in Valley Children's. I haven't gotten the data yet today. So we're still obviously low hospitalization, low case rate. We are not close to, obviously, the 75%. That's why the state continues to have weekly calls with us to talk about how we can increase our vaccination by 9 times. It's not necessarily a very reasonable goal. But when you look at our seroprevalence, so seroprevalence is the measure of antibodies in the bloodstream. The seroprevalence of the Central Valley is 70%, which is higher than the Bay Area. They're at 68. So our vaccination is low, but we had more people who actually contracted COVID. So when you look at moving towards 75% as a goal for herd immunity, we're still in a good spot and we continue to push forward with vaccination.
That's an interesting point. Thank you for making that. Very interesting.
Okay, very good. Any other comments? It looks like I see somebody that did this, meaning they want a little comment.
If I may, Chair. Sarah made a comment that I just have a question about as it relates to having to readdress measurables within the scope of services that are attached to their contract. There is clear deliverables in it. I think if you looked at that, and I know that COVID obviously has put limitations on meeting those deliverables, but does that mean that those scopes of services are going to be changed because these contracts as approved are through 2022? Although I think their proposed budgets that are in there are through June of 2021. I think it's that first block of time. So does that mean that that's going to be measured because, or adjusted because I would think that the deliverables that they're required to under their scope of services would be a good measuring point to Supervisor Gonzalez's question about that, as well as Supervisor Frazier's, is actually looking at, okay, we've contacted and they're supposed to identify. I mean, and I say this because I have to do this right now under water quality, right? We have to document, we are facilitating and coordinating a water quality program. We have to document every communication that we've had. So how many phone calls? I mean, there's a state water board meeting going on tomorrow, I think it is, that we had to report, our group had to report, this is how many people were contacted, this is how many people have tested, this is how many people have shown interest, this is how many people are getting bottled water delivery, right? Like, do I know that that's part of the deliverables? So does that mean that this contract is going to change and is not locked into place for 2022? So, and with that, that's all I've got, because then I've got a water meeting at 3 o'clock. That apparently
Where's
I'm
the water
hosting.
meeting? At Farm Bureau?
So to address that question, what was written into the contract was registration support, and there was a number of people that was the key measure. The problem is that people aren't wanting to do pre-registration. They're wanting to do walk-up. That's part of it. But the other part of it is that those measures were based on the volumes of people that we were looking at that time. And it's narrowed significantly. So we would probably shift it from registration support to an outreach number, and it would be a larger number, not a smaller one, because if they're doing outreach and they're not having to spend all the time actually walking them through registration, then it would be a higher number of people that they'd have to get to. Does that make sense? So we just shift the measure to really address the activities that they're continuing to do, which is no longer pre-registration so much. They do some of that, but it's really more how many people they get to and are able to provide information and answer all of those questions.
Supervisor Rogers.
So if they don't meet those metrics that they've been given, are the funds reduced?
If they don't meet the metrics that are prescribed, then yes, their funds are reduced or the contract is canceled. So I would be looking at adjusting it for everyone. It would be, instead of registration support, number of people who are contacted, and they would need to meet those. And if they're not meeting, then yes.
You feel we have adequate checks and balances in place to make sure that they are or are not meeting their metrics?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a lot easier to say you contacted somebody than to prove that you've registered somebody, right? Just making
It's
an
true.
observation, yeah.
Okay, very good. If there's no other questions, public comments, I'll accept the motion for action.
Move to approve.
I'll second, but Sarah, can I request that you provide that information, some reports to us about that so we can stay on whatever you're saying?
Yes.
Can you please
Just
provide that
once
to
a
us?
month.
I'm good
And
with
you don't
that.
have to come, but if you can, well, I don't know. I'd just like to see that.
Yes.
Me too.
Okay,
And if we are checking on contacts, we should spot check some of those and say, have you been contacted?
Yes.
Follow up, that's a good idea.
Mhm.
okay, very good. So we have a motion and a second for 6F, items 1 through 6. Roll call vote.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Gonzalez?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers? Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Chairman Poitras?
Yes.
The vote passes 5-0.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Moving on to 6G, end-of-year budget adjustments.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Joel Bugay, County Administrative Office. The item before you is multiple budget adjustments recommended in order to close the current fiscal year. We'll go over a brief overview one by one. Action 1, receipt of anticipated revenue 20-121, increases the county council budget by $270,000 in order to be able to meet the projected costs of all county council services through June 30th. The reason being is that we had a higher than anticipated expenses in the budget, not necessarily in the contract with county council, but outside the contract cap, that are related to the defense of 3 personnel matters in the current year. The second RUR 20-123 is an increase of just over 1 million for the district, various orgs in the district attorney and the sheriff's budget. It's 786,000 of that is just purely overtime costs for concurrent emergencies that the sheriff's office responded to between COVID-19 and the Creek Fire. These are reimbursable through FEMA funds. However, there is a length of time before FEMA funds arrive, so we are recommending to cash flow this by funding it out of general fund balance at the moment. We expect the reimbursement to occur sometime in fiscal year 21-22. The balance, 226,000, is adjustments in various line items of the DA's budget. The majority of this is that the DA, on a positive note, experienced no attrition, retained all their staff, and have filled their vacancies.
First time ever.
And this was, the budget was adopted prior to the CARES Act and our ability to plug some of the deficit with the CARES Act. We had built in a 5% salary savings, which obviously wasn't met in a positive note, which is why we have to adjust the budget to make sure we have the appropriations to pay her staff. The other, which is a significantly smaller portion of that, is adjusting various line items in the service and supplies related to contracts, online case management, and her line items have not been adjusted since like almost a decade. So we are right-sizing that, and it'll be fixed in the proposed 21-22 budget as well. The final two actions are all related to the Ag Department. So the Ag Department in May was notified of additional funds from, I'm going to murder it, so I'm going to let Rusty explain those funds. But the logic of the funds is we get notified if there's extra during the year. They have to spend it by June 30th. They have a maintenance of effort that they have to meet. So if they don't spend it on eligible funds, it basically reduces the general fund expense. We don't like doing that because we're forced into that, meaning their state revenues get reduced next year to force the county to pay up the maintenance of effort. So what the Ag Department is recommending is to move these funds to the capital project to do a parking lot resurface that was dropped in the Ag building project for budget reasons. So now they've identified these one-time funds they're recommending to finish that last component. That parking lot needs to be reclaimed and refinished. That's why it's so expensive. With that, staff and the departments are available for any questions.
Supervisor Rogers.
So that will reduce a debt from that particular operation there?
Supervisor, that was never factored into the debt.
So it's an extra, it's an
Right.
extra budget thing. But I think that's good planning on their part and an excellent opportunity to spend the money in a good way and a right way.
Right, and your board approved the original scope, but with budget constraints and escalation, the Ag Department scratched that from the capital project because that's one of the things that, there were other way more important things that are priority, but with the one-time funds, it gives them an opportunity to finish it off.
I think it's smart planning. Of the 1.8 plus million that we're talking about here, what can be charged off to COVID?
Unfortunately, it's the 800,000 in overtime. I don't know the breakdown between COVID versus Creek Fire. We'll have to
Well,
follow
yeah, you don't need to separate that. Let's say to reimbursable.
So the full 800, so of the million, 800,000, almost 800,000 is reimbursable. Of the million between the DA and the sheriff, 800,000 is fully reimbursable. The 200,000, majority of that is the salary savings we took from the district attorney's office, which would unfortunately be general fund, but we got 100% CARES Act to offset that in the current year.
Okay, so $1 million then is what we're not getting reimbursed on.
It was only $1 million, Supervisor, so $1.12 million. So it's fully offset with either forthcoming FEMA money or current year CARES Act funds.
So that's in a general fund expenditure adjustment of the budget, $1 million up.
Right. And the county council is also a general fund, the 270,000.
Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Are there any other questions? Any comments or questions from the public? Hearing and seeing none, I'll accept a motion for action.
You got something right there.
Oh.
I should learn to keep my mouth shut. The only thing I wanted to say is that, first of all, it was a great year for us in that we had no attrition. And I want to point out, besides that being good for office morale and office function, it's good for the county fiscally. You know, I understand we're asking for money now to compensate for that, but when you calculate out the savings between running recruitments, the time spent on interviews and whatnot, paying people what they're worth, and retaining good employees is always good fiscal policy. So
Absolutely.
I just wanted to point that out.
Thank
Don't-
you.
Never keep your mouth shut. You do great.
Very
Thank you.
good. Thank you. Anybody else?
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Gonzalez?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Chairman Poitras?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Thank you. We do have supervisor and staff reports, and then we'll finish up with closed session. So with supervisor reports, I'll start to my right. Supervisor Frazier,
Nothing to report.
Supervisor
I
Rogers.
just want to say I was honored to give the speech at the Chowchilla recognition of the veterans yesterday, and very good turnout. A couple hundred people showed up, and we should have thousands, really. People need to remember where our freedom came from, and what price was paid to achieve that. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Gonzalez.
Nothing to report.
Supervisor Wheeler.
Yeah, nothing, I guess, except that we had a great workshop for the board last week, go Monday now, I guess. Time goes by, so, huh? Oh, yeah, a town hall meeting too, but
Yeah.
I have them all the time, so.
All right. Very good. Thank you. CAO Varney.
Nothing to report, thank you.
Council Garza.
No report, Chairman.
Clerk of the board.
Nothing to report.
Very good. Thank you. And with that, we will go back into closed session.
I don't know, mine is.
Good afternoon, everybody. We just returned from closed session, and there is no reportable action. Thank you, and have a great rest of the day. Meeting is adjourned.